A chaotic scene unfolds as people scream for help, yelling that a demon beast is upon them. Amidst the carnage, an injured young man named King gasps for air, identifying himself as a level 0 abyssal scavenger. He thinks about his inability to harm demon beasts, a fact confirmed by a system message stating he dealt 0 damage to a spirit wolf. He feels he's only able to survive by picking up the trash left behind by job changers, considering himself a social burden and a useless person. A wooden shield he holds shatters under an attack. He grits his teeth, thinking that while he may live like trash, he will never die like one. He charges forward and strikes the wolf with a broken piece of wood, prompting a system message that he has dealt a critical hit for 1 point of damage. The scene transitions to G-City, where a rank C abyssal gate looms. King is now shown as a senior abyssal scavenger, diligently sorting through monster parts while other workers rush by, calling him an idiot for being too slow. He explains that his job is to recycle and sort the leftovers from job changers' battles. A supervisor checks his work, warning him sternly that attempting to hide valuable crystals would lead to heavy fines and imprisonment. King contemplates the life-threatening nature of his job and the meager pay that leaves him heavily in debt. Another scavenger approaches with an offer for a high-commission job, which King, desperate for money, accepts without hesitation. Aboard a transport vehicle, he overhears other workers discussing their destination, an A-rank abyssal replica where numerous groups have already been wiped out. Their mission, he learns, is not just cleanup, but also the recovery of the fallen team's equipment. He silently questions the system that allowed capitalists to commercialize the abyss. The story flashes back 10 years, to the day the abyssal gates first descended from the void, unleashing monstrous creatures upon humanity. Only individuals known as job changers possessed the special abilities needed to damage these abyssal creatures. People discovered that defeating the beasts yielded not only energy-rich magic crystals, but also a variety of mysterious weapons and props, sparking the birth of the massive abyssal industries. This new economy caused traditional enterprises to collapse, leaving level 0 players like King, who failed to change jobs, ostracized and unemployable. He recalls being rejected from jobs, facing eviction from his apartment, and being pressured by a hospital for payment for his little sister's medical care. Deemed useless by society, he was even approached by a loan shark offering a small loan in exchange for his organs. Back in the present, the other scavengers on the transport gossip about his 1 million yuan debt and sick sister, callously remarking that he might as well die. As they arrive at the dungeon, their team leader shouts at them to hurry. King steals his resolve, determined to earn money and return alive. He steps into a B-rank abyss for the very first time in his life. The team is immediately ambushed by a pack of spirit wolves. A powerful warrior in the group unleashes a torrent of fire, incinerating the beasts in an instant. They venture deeper into the dungeon, which resembles a shopping mall grotesquely mutated by the abyss, a phenomenon known as abyssalization. They notice the complete absence of bodies from the previous expedition. Finding it unnerving, the team leader orders the scavengers to search for the corpses. As King moves, he accidentally bumps into another scavenger who violently shoves him to the ground in disgust. The man grabs King by the collar and begins to choke him, but another team member intervenes, reminding him they have a mission. The aggressor releases him with a warning to stay away. King is left thinking about the labels he's been given: a burden to society, a useless person, trash. A system window then appears, revealing that his experience value is 99 out of 100, meaning he is on the verge of reaching level 1. Seizing the moment, he breaks away from the group and runs deeper into the dungeon alone. Other scavengers spot a lone demon beast and scream, running away in terror. It is a spirit wolf, but it's already at critical health. For King, this is the opportunity he has been waiting for. He decides to face the beast by himself, charging forward with a simple wooden shield and staff. The other scavengers watch, bewildered, questioning if he is aware that only job changers can damage demonic beasts. A status window shows all of King's attributes are at a mere 1 point. He knows he can't break the wolf's defenses with his normal strength, which is precisely why he understands he must use more force. The main combat team, having cleared their area, mock the weakness of scavengers. One of them spots the critically injured wolf that King is confronting. King shouts that he will not die like trash and brings his staff down hard on the wolf's head, landing a critical hit for 1 point of damage and killing the creature. The combat team members approach him, mocking him for acting heroic after killing a single, weakened wolf. King reflects on his long and arduous journey. For level 0 member, gaining experience is incredibly difficult. His only method has been to seek out critically injured monsters to land that one final, crucial point of damage, slowly accumulating experience day by day. A system notification confirms he earned one experience point, finally reaching 100%. The conditions for leveling up have been met. A bright light envelops King, and the system congratulates him on achieving level 1. His new job class is revealed, Scavenger with a maximum level of 1. The team member who had been mocking him bursts into laughter, ridiculing him for wasting his once-in-a-lifetime level up on a job that is literally named after trash and has no potential for growth. He informs King that the other scavengers have left, leaving him to clean up the area alone. Left by himself, King wonders what abilities his new class possesses. He approaches the corpse of the spirit wolf he just killed, and a system message prompts him. Recyclable trash found. A swirling purple energy erupts from his hand, engulfing the corpse and completely disintegrating it. In its place, a skill card and attribute points appear. He realizes his scavenger class allows him to gain skills and stats from recycling corpses. The card he obtained is Spirit Dash, but it requires 3 agility to use. He immediately allocates his 3 newly acquired attribute points into agility, meeting the skill's requirement. He activates the skill card. A green aura flashes around him, but nothing seems to happen. Just then, a team member yells from a distance for him to get back to cleaning. As King starts to run, he suddenly accelerates into a blur of motion, tripping and crashing to the ground. He realizes the skill worked but is now on cooldown. Empowered by this discovery, he turns to the dozens of other wolf corpses scattered around and begins recycling them all. A powerful abyssal energy swirls around him as he absorbs their power, and he declares with newfound confidence that the abyssal scavenger class is outrageously strong. After recycling all the corpses, he has accumulated a total of 111 attribute points. He decides to distribute them evenly, raising his strength, agility, intelligence, will, constitution, and luck stats all to 20. Meanwhile, the main combat team discusses King's strange, unheard-of job class, ultimately dismissing it as a worthless F-rank ability and moving on. They soon discover a large mound composed of dried-up corpses on the 5th floor, the remains of the missing falcon hunting group. As they realize it's an ambush, massive tentacles erupt from the ground around them. A high-level abyssal man-eating plant reveals itself as the true boss of the area. The corpses of the falcon hunting group are suddenly reanimated, rising as undead puppets to attack the team. While the team fights for their lives, King finishes recycling the last of the wolf corpses. He unlocks an achievement for recycling 50 bodies, which rewards him with a low-grade necklace and a perfectly ordinary dagger. The ground begins to shake violently. A reanimated corpse, a parasitized human, lunges at him. A system message announces an agility check, which he passes with ease, effortlessly dodging the attack. He can feel the dramatic improvement in his body's agility from his new stats, realizing he has truly become stronger. He activates Spirit Dash and closes the distance to the monster instantly. His enhanced strength allows his attack to break through its defenses. Thanks to his increased intelligence, he perceives the monster's weak point at its neck. He stabs it with his new dagger, and a luck-based check triggers a bleeding effect, killing the creature instantly. A constitution check then negates the monster's poisonous aura. It's the first time he has ever killed something all by himself. He recycles the parasitized human's corpse and acquires a new passive skill, Toxic Evolution, which transforms harmful poison effects into beneficial buffs. He tests this new ability by decomposing a spoiled potion and drinking the resulting concoction. Instead of harming him, it heals him completely, and grants a powerful buff that doubles all of his stats for the next 10 minutes. He allocates 5 new attribute points to intelligence, and then senses a huge swarm of monsters approaching. Thinking of all the times he was called trash, King now stands proudly as a scavenger. He faces the approaching horde and challenges them to bring it on. The scene cuts back to the main team struggling against the reanimated members of the falcon hunting group, who are now much stronger than they were in life. Overwhelmed, the team leader orders a full retreat. As they flee, they are relentlessly pursued. One of their mages, Lao Chen, betrays his comrades by casting a slowness spell on them, using them as bait to save himself. He offers a hollow apology, promising to pay for their funerals as he abandons them to their fate. Lao Chen believes he has escaped, but he runs directly into King, who is now surrounded by a swirling purple aura. Shocked to see the trash boy, Lao Chen realizes King must be responsible for the disappearance of the other monsters and accuses him of betraying his own team to survive. Fearing that King will expose his cowardice, Lao Chen attempts to kick him toward the remaining monsters. However, a system-triggered strength check fails, causing his attack to backfire. Yi King looks down on him and states that he is inferior even to trash. Yi King activates his Scavenger ability, and a vortex of purple energy engulfs Lao Chen, beginning the recycling process. The system declares him unrecyclable trash, but announces an upgrade to the ability. Yi King can now recycle useless skills from living targets if they consent or are unconscious. From Lao Chen, he obtains a Spellmaster 3-minute experience card. He immediately uses the card, gaining the temporary ability Controller of All Flames. His high intelligence stat causes the basic Fireball skill to evolve into the much more powerful Great Flame Explosion. As the man-eating plant and its minions close in, Yi King mimics the way he saw the mage cast his spell. He gathers fire in his palm and unleashes a massive explosion that completely incinerates the area. He worries that he might have destroyed all the recyclable corpses. An unburnt, reanimated assassin leaps from the smoke and attacks him. Yi King dodges but realizes he has no close combat skills. He spots one of the team's warriors, still alive but gravely wounded. Yi King tells the man that if he doesn't want to be reanimated by the plant, he should consent to having his abilities recycled. He then uses his power to take the man's golden shield skill. A shimmering golden shield materializes just in time to block the assassin's attack. Yi King then informs the dying warrior that he also needs to recycle his corpse and wishes him peace. After the warrior passes, Yi King recycles the assassin's body and obtains a Dagger Mastery card, which he uses instantly. His communicator buzzes. It's the supervisor asking if he has found the Falcon Group's bodies. Yi King replies that he found them, but they have all been recycled. Later, Lao Chen is seen in an interrogation room with the Abyss Supervisor Committee, frantically claiming that a trash picker recycled everyone. The supervisors dismiss his story as hallucinations caused by abyssal energy pollution. Yi King sells the magic crystals he gathered on the black market, earning just enough to pay off his debts. Realizing he must operate more discreetly, he joins a new team recruiting for an Abyss expedition, introducing himself as a level 1 scavenger. The other recruits mock him, but the team's leader, a striking woman with long white hair named Liu Xingren, accepts him, stating they just need bodies to fill the roster. Yi King recognizes her from 2 years prior. A flashback shows him as a level 0, painstakingly hitting a monster to gain a single experience point. Liu Xingren had found him then, surprised by his risky method of leveling up. In the flashback, she had asked him why he was risking his life. He told her he needed to get stronger to earn money and protect his family. Impressed by his determination, she introduced herself and invited him to join her group once he successfully changed jobs so they could conquer that place together. Back in the present, after their expedition, Liu Xingren's guards surround her. She tosses a single magic crystal to Yi King, calling it his 0. 5 reward, before being led away. As he watches her leave, he tries to recall her name, misremembering it as Liu Xinrang. A man in ornate armor slaps Yi King on the back of the head, yelling at him to stop looking and hurry up with the crystals. Yi King says he is on it, while the armored man exclaims that the approaching woman is definitely Liu Xingren. Standing before a swirling purple portal, Yi King tells Liu Xingren that he will try his best not to drag the others down. She responds coldly that that is very good and tells him to get his gear and get ready to go. She then commands everyone to move, and they all affirm their readiness as they step through the glowing abyss. Walking alone, Yi King thinks to himself that this time he must work hard, make money, and return alive. He recalls how he fought his way out of the last abyss, mastering the Shield Warrior class and obtaining a gold shield card. He also gained an Assassin's Dagger Mastery card, which allows him to wield a dagger like an assassin. He also acquired Berserker abilities with 2 crossed axes on the card. Finally, he obtained a boss-level ability, the man-eating plant's super regeneration. He reflects on his balanced stat distribution, shown as a radar chart with strength, constitution, luck, will, intelligence, and agility all even, musing that his point-adding method prevents any career shortcomings. His total attribute points can exceed 100 because he recycled everything in the previous abyss. As he steps toward the portal, he wonders what level would be equivalent to 100 points, and his eyes glow purple as a system window for observing eye. Attribute perception appears. He uses the skill on the armored warrior, noting that the man's strength is only 12 points and his weakest stat, intelligence, is only 1 point. He calculates that if a regular mortal's strength is 1 point, then this warrior is 12 times stronger, meaning his own 100 points in strength make him 100 times stronger than a mortal. Yi King then drops to the ground, pushing a loose stone brick back into the floor with a heavy thud, causing the ground to shake. The impact creates a massive bang that echoes through the chamber. A female party member asks what happened and if that was an earthquake. King chuckles, saying the underground structure is a bit unstable as he casually presses the dislodged brick back into place. Suddenly, a team member shouts that he has found a chest. Another party member notes that this is troublesome because they don't have any assassins on their team, adding that the chest is at least A rank. King steps forward and says he can try it. With a flash of blue light, he easily picks the lock, thinking to himself that it's as easy as eating. The armored man questions this, stating that the ability to pick locks is a skill only an assassin higher than level 5 should be able to learn. King explains that a level 1 scavenger can learn many convenient abilities because they often come across unopened chests while picking up trash. The party decides to distribute the loot after the mission ends and continue forward. As they walk, one of the armored men stops a female mage, telling her to stay there as there seems to be something in front of them. He tosses a small metal ball ahead, which clinks on the floor, revealing no traps. Zingren asks King if he is really just a level 1. He tells her not to overthink it, explaining that he coincidentally came across something he is good at because he often triggers traps while scavenging and naturally awakened a trap perception ability. A system message confirms a successful deception check, making Zingren more persuadable. King sees this and thinks it must be the power of 100 intelligence points. The armored man rewards him with a broken one-handed mace, telling him to accept it with gratitude. King notes their evaluation of him is still poor and tells everyone to continue moving forward. The team comes to a large chamber with a single stone tablet and a chalice filled with blood on a pedestal. The armored man wonders if this is the secret treasure at the end of the level, remarking how simple it was to get there. King speculates that this abyss might be a reward room without any monsters, which a system notification confirms is a unique abyss type with only treasures. Zingren warns the others not to celebrate too early and to pay attention to where monsters might spawn. A horned warrior questions if the stone tablet is all there is to the abyss. The armored man declares they have the final treasure and can leave now. As he speaks, the blood in the chalice begins to boil, and a system message announces that the blood trial is starting. Tendrils of blood erupt from the chalice and swirl around the room. The armored man realizes it's a trap, not a reward room, and Zingren recognizes the emerging monster as the Blood Nightmare. She orders everyone to prepare for battle as she draws her sword. The blood coalesces into numerous monstrous forms that surround the party, clacking their jaws menacingly. King decides to fight with only 25% of his strength to avoid exposing his true attributes, equipping a Ring of Weakness that can reduce the wearer's attributes to a chosen percentage. He reflects that no matter how useless something seems, it will eventually come in handy. The armored warrior is immediately overwhelmed by the blood monsters. King activates Spirit Dash and rushes forward. Zingren is shocked, exclaiming that it was just one strike. A blood monster that King struck bursts into pieces, but Zingren finds it interesting as the blood immediately reforms. The horned warrior yells in frustration, wondering what is happening as one cut makes the monster burst into pieces, only for another party member to shout that it's condensing again. The blood takes on a more humanoid form with a skull for a face, and Zingren realizes it has taken on their form. A text box explains that the Blood Nightmare is fragile in its original state and strengthens itself by imitating its opponents. A party member lands a blow on the monster and is praised for a job well done. However, the monster is unfazed and swings its massive blood arm, decapitating the warrior who struck it. The horned warrior screams in horror, realizing beheading it is no use and questioning if the thing is unkillable. The Blood Nightmare looms over him, its shadow menacing. Zingren scoffs, asking if her party members can be any more useless, as she unleashes a wave of ice, freezing the monster's solid. The blood monster reconstitutes itself and lumbers toward the party. The female mage cries out that it's too fast and there's no time to cast magic spells. King decides that since a sword is ineffective, it would be better to evaporate it on the spot. He gathers fire in his hands, unleashing a great flame explosion that engulfs the monster. The mage is stunned, recognizing the S-grade evocation spell and questioning how he could cast it instantly. King wonders if it could be a bug and how a level 1 player could do such a thing. The monster reforms from the explosion and charges, but King dashes to meet it. He activates Berserk Mode, a Berserker-exclusive ability that increases speed and strength by 100%, but also increases damage received by 100%. He is sent flying by a powerful blow. The scattered blood from the monster begins to condense again, and the mage asks what's happening with the monster over there. King realizes the monster has been replicated, and it has now evolved into a king-level blood nightmare, much to the shock of the horned warrior, who wonders how a king-level monster could appear in a B-rank abyss. King understands that something is definitely wrong. The blood nightmare absorbed his attributes and evolved into a king-level monster. King crouches, realizing its attributes are now on par with his own, making it impossible to overpower. Liu Xingren tells him to step aside, calling him a good-for-nothing fish. She declares that she should be the one to take care of such a powerful opponent. The massive king-level blood nightmare advances on her. Liu Xingren gracefully dodges its attacks, freezing its limbs with her ice powers. King recognizes her ability as control over the frost domain. Despite her efforts, the monster breaks free, and Liu Xingren grits her teeth, admitting it won't do and that she is still too weak. A flashback shows her being told that the abyss's energy level is unstable and asked if she's really entering alone. She thinks about her goal to conquer the dark uppermost level of the Tower of the End and how her growth rate is far behind her older siblings. She thinks that, to be precise, she can't even reach them. If she can't crush this abyss with ease, she won't be worthy to inherit the Liu family name. Back in the present, she stands resolute before the monster as her party watches from a distance. She raises a blue banner, the flag of frost, into the air and plants it into the ground with a thud. A system notification states that the speed of all allies within 30 meters will increase by 50%. The flag unleashes a massive wave of ice that begins to freeze the blood nightmare from the ground up. She knows that the frost domain specializes in restraining liquid-type monsters, and even if it can't be killed, it will cease to be a threat once completely frozen. She launches a comet strike, a powerful slash of icy energy that slices through the frozen monster. King watches, thinking that this is the legendary S-rank God-chosen job and that he's looking forward to seeing who is stronger, the king-level blood nightmare or the God-chosen knight, Liu Xingren. Liu Xingren watches as the ice shatters, but is shocked to see that her attack had no effect. The blood nightmare breaks free completely, its red eyes glowing menacingly. Liu Xingren is sent flying, thinking that even as an S-rank, her strength can't compare to her older siblings. She feels she is always being left behind, the weakest member of the Liu family who is always laughed at and ridiculed. She recalls voices calling her the disgrace of the family, a weak sister, and telling her to stay home because the abyss is dangerous. She resolved to become stronger, even if it meant starting from a novice abyss, determined to surpass everyone. She grits her teeth, vowing to face every challenge on her own. The blood nightmare catches her midair, its jaws closing in. However, just before it bites down, the monster explodes into a shower of blood. King stands nearby, having just saved her, while a party member cries out that even Liu Xingren was defeated. Another suggests they should run. King catches the falling Liu Xingren, who looks at him and calls him a brat. King's eye glows as he activates Observing Eye, Weakness Perception, learning that a king-level monster gains resistance to abnormal conditions, and its weak points are no longer weak as it levels up. He decides there's no point in holding back anymore and activates all his attributes, his body glowing with fiery energy. He moves with incredible speed, dodging the monster's attacks. He knows that as long as he can find the weakness of this king-level blood nightmare, he will achieve his goal. However, no matter which part he destroys, it regenerates, and he hasn't observed any weaknesses on its body. He concludes that the monster seems to be remotely controlled by something. He remembers the cube-like block that triggered the trial, realizing it has something to do with the monster. He yells for the horned warrior to kick the block over to him, and the warrior complies. A system message confirms an intelligence check has passed, allowing him to decipher the ancient writing on the glyph block and lift the blood curse. The solution was right in front of them the whole time, and he wishes he'd used his observing eye from the start. The monster suddenly lunges, swallowing the block, and a system message announces it has entered invincible mode. The party wonders why it isn't moving while King curses, realizing he was too careless. Liu Xingren approaches him, saying she feels like she's seen him somewhere before and that he looked familiar when she entered. King is surprised she never recognized him, revealing that they met in the abyss 2 years ago and that he was the scavenger who took her first experience point. She remembers the brat who picked up the 0, 5 points she missed, and calls him Yeking, which a note explains means one-night stand. He corrects her, saying his name is King, and she remarks that she never thought he would succeed in job changing. He confirms he is now a level 1 scavenger. Liu Xingren thinks about how this brat was always risking his life for experience points and has already become this strong, while King asks why she's looking at him like that. He tells her it's too shameful to say out loud. He explains that the block will circulate within the monster's body and that her frost domain can briefly freeze it. He asks her to use this brief period to locate the block. He acknowledges that no matter who it is, there will be a time when a single person can't handle a challenge on their own. He offers to work together to defeat the monster, counting it as her 0.5 reward. She accepts with a smirk, telling him he'd better not hold her back. The rest of the party rushes over, saying they also want to join the battle, wanting to fight with all they've got even if they might not be much help. Yi King agrees, and they all resolve to get out alive. Yi King explains that there are 5 seconds until the monster's invincible mode is lifted, after which it will enter a berserker stage and rampage for the next 30 seconds. He rallies the group, telling them this is their final 30-second opportunity and they must return alive. The others echo his determination. Liu Xingren activates Spirit Boost, a buff that removes fatigue and increases magic recovery speed for 30 seconds. The party members murmur their resolve to survive. Liu Xingren thinks that she can't underestimate even a trash character and orders the soldier to keep the monster's hatred down. The horned warrior taunts the monster to get its attention, and Liu Xingren tells the mage to target its newly generated tentacles and cover the scavenger. The mage complies, firing a magic blast. The monster fires back with its own energy blasts, but Yi King knows they must protect the glyph block or the trial will never end. Liu Xingren asks what they should do, and Yi King says he can take it out by hand. She is shocked, asking if he plans to dive into the stomach of the blood nightmare. He clarifies that more specifically, he's going to penetrate the monster's body. He tells the archer to target the roof and shoot down rocks to create steps for him to jump on. The archer understands and fires an arrow, creating a path. Liu Xingren says she will freeze the lower half of the monster and that he should leave the rest to her. Yi King leaps across the falling debris, dodging the monster's tentacles. He thinks that his super regeneration can instantly heal minor wounds, though he can ignore small attacks. He targets the chest area, knowing it's easier to penetrate, but realizes he's not fast enough. He activates Berserker mode for 20% speed boost and drinks a slowness potion, a trash item he picked up. A system message indicates that his Toxic Evolution ability has been triggered, reversing the potion's effect and increasing his speed by 15% instead. He thinks the trash potions are finally being put to use. Another bonus effect grants him skin hardening, increasing his defense. He declares this is his finishing blow and dives toward the monster, but it defends with a tentacle, knocking him back. He curses his failed attempt at showing off, thinking that a piece of trash should keep a low profile. Then he resolves not to give up and activates his recycling abilities, declaring that the recyclable target is himself. A system message states it is unable to recycle living organisms and that the recycling has failed, but Yi King uses the force of the failed ability to launch himself forward like a projectile, telling the system to throw him out vigorously with all its strength. He gets the glyph block, and a system message announces the blood trial is complete. The monster dissolves. Liu Xingren asks if they won, and the party celebrates as they all level up. However, a message tells Yi King he failed to level up because he's already at the max level. He grins, knowing this was expected. A massive treasure chest appears, and he exclaims that this is the real treasure. Inside is a powerful sword requiring level 10, which he cannot use since his max level is 1. He laments that all the flashy equipment before him is useless to him. He approaches Liu Xingren, saying there's something he needs to trouble her with. He explains that as the one who passed the trial, she was the greatest contributor and should distribute the items. A party member tells another to contact headquarters for a rescue team, but Liu Xingren declares there is no need. As her party fawns over her, praising her for clearing the abyss on her own, she plays along, boasting that she's an S rank after all. She quietly asks Yi King what he needs to trouble her with. He asks her to treat him as if he were never there when she leaves, letting her take all the credit for clearing the abyss. He then asks if he can sell the leftover items to her Liu group for 500 magic crystals at a discount. She's taken aback but agrees, realizing he's planning to make her owe him a favor. He tells the others to go on ahead and that he'll slip out secretly later. Alone in the empty chamber, he picks up a remnant of the monster's blood, asking it if even something as weak as it wouldn't want to be like trash and be stepped on. He tells it to become his strength. A system message announces he has successfully recycled the blood nightmare and gained the nightmare body ability, which consumes life essence to summon a clone that can deal or receive damage once. He is pleased with this outcome, looking forward to working with his new ability. He reviews his inventory, noting he gave all the high-level items to Liu Xingren. He thinks that selling the inconspicuous trash items secretly would be fine, as the supervisors wouldn't care, but then realizes an unknown scavenger with lots of flashy equipment would definitely be noticed. He decides he is overthinking it, and that no one would buy this trash anyway. He accidentally recycles a piece of equipment, gaining 1 basic point, BP. He wonders if he accidentally decomposed it and reads the tutorial, learning that BP can be used to upgrade, repair, and create new items. He receives a task to repair an ordinary dagger, which costs 5 BP. He calculates that he needs 4 more BP and begins decomposing other trash items, like a broken spear and a rusted sword. After repairing the dagger, he sees that its durability and attack have been slightly enhanced, realizing that even trash weapons can be improved by repeatedly wearing them out and repairing them. For completing the tutorial, he is offered a choice between a blueprint for a convenient magical potion or a random attribute value increase of +2. He chooses the blueprint for the potion that can instantly recover mana and remove fatigue. Yiking stared intently at the glowing blue interface card that displayed the formula for a convenient magical potion, noting that while attribute points were not scarce for him, the uncertainty of the abyss required preparation. He quickly grasped the item regeneration skill, learning that the convenient magical potion required 6 basic points and a random container to craft. Realizing the need for a vessel, he sat in a cafe and thoughtfully sipped a large drink, focusing not on the beverage but on the cup itself. After finishing the drink, he approached the counter and politely asked for an empty container. Back at his table, he initiated the regeneration process, watching as the trash was digitally deconstructed and reformed. A progress bar appeared with a minigame prompt, which he navigated perfectly, causing the cup to glow and multiply into 5 vials of blue potion. He held up the recycled item, noting that while it looked a bit odd, it was fully functional, and consuming it instantly restored his magic value while decreasing fatigue. Later, outside a massive building, a bald man with a scar confronted Yiking, recognizing him and mocking his scavenger status. The thug loomed over him, demanding repayment, but Yiking calmly sipped his new drink and stated that he had already paid off all his debts, including interest. The thug leaned in close, blowing smoke in Yiking's face, and reminded him that his work contract had not yet expired, sneering that a trash picker should know his place. In a display of dominance, the thug slapped the drink out of Yiking's hand, spilling the brown sugar pearl tea everywhere. Yiking's expression darkened as he looked at the spilled pearls, while the thug laughed about the consequences of a level 0 offending a B-rank job changer. Yiking mentally noted that strict supervision regulations forbade using abilities outside the abyss, forcing him to lure them to a blind spot in the security cameras to activate his regeneration powers. The thug continued his taunts, ordering Yiking to pick up the pearls one by one and lick the floor clean. Yiking coldly refused. Enraged, the thug wound up for a punch, calling him shameless. Before the blow could land, a hand stopped the thug, and a blond man named Caesar, leader of the S-rank hunting group Blood Oath, stepped in. Caesar asked if they had gathered enough people, and upon seeing Yiking, he decided to hire him on the spot, disregarding the thug's protest that Yiking was just a scavenger. Caesar explained that for the Red Moon State, he needed cannon fodder who could fend for themselves, regardless of their class. As the red moon rose, turning the sky a blood-red hue, Yiking agreed to join, seeing an opportunity for greater rewards. The group assembled at the entrance, where a man in a red shirt and bandana recognized Yiking and pointed a trembling finger at him, shouting in disbelief. Before the man could expose their past history, Yiking slapped him across the face, silencing him. Yiking leaned in and whispered a threat, warning the man to think before he spoke. When Caesar asked if they knew each other, Yiking smoothly denied it, and Caesar accepted the lie, reasoning that Team Killer wouldn't have friends anyway. Inside the subway station entrance to the abyss, the cannon fodder team introduced themselves. Zhu Tong, a level 3 bard wearing a mask, took the lead, while the man Yiking had slapped was identified as Chen Xingdian, a level 1 mage. Yiking introduced himself as a level 1 scavenger. The group also included Lao Zhu, a level 2 healer, and Lao Zhang, a level 3 warrior. Caesar announced that in addition to the main Blood Oath members, these 5 temporary members would serve as bait to reduce casualties. He gave them a key and instructed them to map the traps and find the boss room, callously adding that he didn't expect them to survive. As they ventured deeper into the red-lit dungeon, the team felt a sudden drop in temperature. A massive swinging blade trap suddenly descended from the ceiling, narrowly missing Zhu Tong. The bard scrambled away in panic, realizing he had survived only due to sheer luck. Further in, giant white cocoons dropped from the ceiling with heavy thuds, The cocoons burst open to reveal demonized spiders, elite creatures that spat poison. Zhu Tong panicked, revealing his fear of insects. Chen Xingdian unleashed a burst of fire magic, yelling for them to burn, but the spiders were resilient. A massive spider lunged at the group, prompting the warrior to block with his shield. Yi King calmly stepped forward and engaged a spider, his dagger flashing as he deflected its attack. While Chen Xingdian accused him of being an ability stealer, Yi King touched the corpse of a defeated spider and chose to recycle it. He obtained an attribute point and a new arcana card called Quenching Poison, which he immediately fused with his ordinary dagger. With his weapon now glowing with purple energy, Yi King turned to help the struggling team. He slashed a spider, the new poison effect taking hold immediately. Zhu Tong, trying to help, activated a strengthening buff, but in his panic he accidentally cast it on a monster instead of his teammates. The spider grew in size and power, terrifying the group. Yi King, unfazed, dashed forward with a burst of speed, his purple aura trailing behind him. He slashed through the strengthened monster with precise strikes. The team watched in awe as the Scavenger dismantled the threat, realizing that the bard's buff had been countered by Yi King's overwhelming strength. Yi King explained that the spiders had high poison resistance but were vulnerable to physical damage, though he kept the details of his new ability to himself. The remaining monsters retreated, sensing the danger Yi King posed. Yi King used the opportunity to recycle more corpses, converting the excess cards into basic points. As the team moved deeper, Yi King sensed a hidden area nearby. He summoned a small red creature, a blood nightmare, to follow the main group so he wouldn't be missed, then slipped away to explore the secret branch. Alone in the hidden passage, he encountered a massive level 20 rare elite broodmother. The giant beast attacked with spiraling web shots, which Yi King dodged agilely. He realized the broodmother had fire immunity and high physical defense. He decided to use his poison dagger, deducing that in exchange for their venomous bite, the spiders had lost their poison immunity. He struck the broodmother, inflicting stacks of poison. The monster retaliated by spinning a massive web, slowing Yi King's movements. Yi King activated his Berserk card, choosing the splattering gore option, which allowed him to ignore defenses at the cost of his own health. To counter the health drain, he simultaneously activated his regeneration ability. With purple energy flaring around him, Yi King tore through the webs and delivered a flurry of devastating blows to the broodmother. He defeated the elite monster and collected the loot, which included high-value equipment and a rare summon card for a broodling. He rejoined the cannon fodder team just as they discovered a cave filled with valuable magic crystals. Chen Xingdian, the mage, greedily placed a magical beacon called the Eye of Argos to mark the location for the main team, hoping for a reward. The others were furious, wanting to take the crystals for themselves to pay off their debts. Chen Xingdian sneered at them, calling them trash and reminding them that no one cared if they died. He then kicked Lao Zhu, the healer, into a trap field to test it. A laser beam shot out, killing the healer instantly. Chen feigned it as an accident, but the others saw through his cruelty. Yi King watched silently as Chen justified his actions with a dog-eat-dog philosophy. Just then, Caesar and his group arrived. Chen immediately tried to curry favor with Caesar, offering the crystals and claiming credit. Caesar smiled, but then reminded Chen that taking a crystal required a price, a human life. A heavily armored knight from Caesar's group stepped forward and executed Chen, fulfilling the price for the crystals. Caesar then ordered the remaining cannon fodder to harvest the crystals, warning that refusal meant death. The warrior Lao Zhang broke down in tears, paralyzed by fear of the traps. Caesar scoffed at his uselessness. Suddenly, the red-shirted mage, who everyone thought was dead, stood up. No, it was a trick of the light or perhaps a flashback. Actually, it was Chen Xingdian who had tried to join Caesar before being killed. Wait, the narrative returns to the present where the surviving cannon fodder are being forced to work. Yi King stepped forward, walking calmly toward the crystals. Caesar's subordinate, a man with red hair, shouted at him to stop, but Yi King ignored him and picked up a crystal. Nothing happened. The trap did not activate. Caesar and his men were stunned. The red-haired subordinate, thinking the trap was broken or used up, stepped forward to grab a crystal for himself. A red laser instantly beam shot through his head, killing him on the spot. Caesar watched with a predatory grin, realizing that Yi King must have an absurdly high luck stat to bypass the death traps entirely. Yi King coolly remarked that he just divided his points equally. Caesar laughed, declaring a change of plans. He only needed one corpse with high luck, and he would get rid of the rest. An attacker gives the order not to let a single person escape. Yi King watches a man flee, questioning the decision since their side still has superior numbers. A companion corrects him, stating they are now short one man. But Yi King cryptically replies that they are not short on men and asks if the others can hear something stirring in the darkness. A system notification announces a successful summon as giant spiders emerge from a shadowy portal with a terrifying screech. One of the survivors panics at the sight of more monsters, but Yi King calmly informs his green-haired companion that he tamed these spiders on the way and they are on their side, much to the man's astonishment. The system identifies the enemy party, revealing a level 20 necromancer, a level 17 berserker, 2 level 18 hunters, and a level 19 paladin. Yi King feels confident his monsters can handle them, but a system hint warns him that it cannot scout human enemies with power levels close to his own. The blonde antagonist, Caesar, realizes Yi King can control abyssal monsters and smirks, concluding his opponent has his own tricks and stats that might even surpass his own. He tells his green-haired companion that he should start running as well if he wants to achieve his own goals in the abyss. The green-haired man tearfully promises never to forget Yi King's sacrifice and flees, narrowly dodging attacks before accidentally triggering an explosive trap. After a second explosion, an ally yells at him for his clumsiness, and the green-haired man can only apologize for his string of bad luck. The enemy paladin approaches, declaring he will crush the trash mobs one by one before bringing his heavy hammer down. The paladin's hammer smashes a spider, and he spits contemptuously before using his shield to bash another one away, mocking its attempt to fight a level 19 opponent. Yi King assesses that while his level 10 spiders can disrupt the enemy formation, they are outmatched by the organized Blood Oath Guild. An enemy hunter fires an arrow, striking a survivor in the leg. The necromancer notes Yi King didn't dodge the first volley and instructs the hunter to adjust his aim. A second arrow flies toward Yi King, but he intercepts it with his dagger. Seeing this, the necromancer acknowledges his skill just as Yi King unleashes a great flame explosion. The ground erupts in a massive fiery blast that engulfs the hunters, standing amidst the flames with a glowing dagger. Yi King's determined expression makes the necromancer concede that he is a tough opponent. A large armored monster crushes another spider as one of the survivors cries out in fear. The armored figure menacingly advances on the green-haired man, who pleads that he didn't attack it. As the creature swings its massive weapon, a burly survivor yells at Yi King, blaming him for their predicament and telling him to get up and fight. The burly man charges forward with a glowing shield but is effortlessly struck down by the armored monster, coughing up blood from the heavy blow. Facing his imminent death, the burly man laughs, saying he was fated to die in the abyss anyway, and defiantly tells the monster to kill him quickly. The monster raises its weapon but is suddenly frozen by a purple aura, immobilized by a skill. From a distance, the green-haired man is surprised that his debuff actually hit the correct target this time. He yells to his companion to attack now that he has used his immobilization technique, but the other man shouts back that he is frozen too. The enemy necromancer observes calmly, stating that summoning consumes a great deal of magic, and that Yi King's mana must be nearly depleted from summoning his clones and spiders. As his mana bar dwindles, Yi King pulls out a potion. The necromancer dismisses the gesture, saying it's too late to replenish mana, and begins to reanimate the dead, explaining that his creations will fight endlessly. While the corpses rise, Yi King calmly sips his drink, appearing to ponder the necromancer's corpse-controlling ability. His mana bar instantly refills completely. Yi King releases a wave of purple energy that disintegrates the reanimated corpses, declaring that the dead should be allowed to rest in peace. Caesar scoffs, questioning if a little potential changes his status, and reminds him that in this ruthless world, only the strong survive. The last remaining hunter cowers, pleading that he is just a handyman. Caesar tells the survivors it is impossible for them to escape, and Yi King agrees. The injured burly man rallies the others to fight, but the green-haired man timidly states he is only a support and cannot even kill a monster. Caesar declares that one of their sides will be destroyed, but Yi King counters that everyone has the right to survive the abyss as a purple aura envelops him. Calling him naive, Caesar lunges forward in a powerful attack that Yi King struggles to block. The force of the blow pushes Yi King back, and he realizes instinctively that Caesar is the strongest opponent he has ever faced. Caesar presses his advantage, his attack shattering the ground as he boasts that all things are trash before his overwhelming strength. Caesar then turns his attention to the cowering green-haired man, mocking his hesitation and weakness as an armored monster strikes him down. As the monster looms over him, the burly man screams at the green-haired man to do something. The burly man desperately pleads with Yi King, calling him their powerful leader, as the green-haired man lies bleeding on the ground. A flashback reveals the green-haired man volunteering to lead the cannon fodder team, secretly hoping the position would allow him to avoid fighting and exposing his own incompetence. Another memory shows him being kicked out of a previous team for being a useless noob who couldn't even apply buffs correctly. Later, a younger Caesar approaches him, asks his job, and upon learning he's a level 3 bard, invites him to come with him. Back in the present, Caesar strikes King with a technique he explains causes continuous internal damage, which is worsened by the use of magic. As Caesar pummels him, King realizes he needs to create distance, but also finds himself intrigued by the blood loss debuff of the attack, wanting the skill for himself. The green-haired man, Zhu Tong, watches in despair, reflecting on how he has always dreamed of having such power himself. King recalls his own past disappointments with his incompetence, but resolves not to run away, thinking that true weakness is not a lack of strength, but a weak heart. As Zhu Tong stares at his hands, a system message from King's memory shows him dealing 0 damage to a monster, refusing to give up until he finally lands a single point of critical damage. King knew from that first step that he had been preparing his whole life to become a king, even as a trash picker, a thought that shocks Zhu Tong. Zhu Tong realizes he must get stronger or die, and that it's better to fight than to hide. He resolves to become a strong person and faces the armored monster, knowing it's a long shot for a level 3 support to damage level 17 armor, but deciding to try anyway. He pulls out a scroll and crushes it, unleashing a skill called Poetry Great Dispersion that causes the armored monster to disintegrate into light. Caesar is stunned by this turn of events, while King, now glowing with a red aura, explains that he has found the best support in the world. A system notification confirms he has gained the inspiration status, boosting all his stats by 15%, and with his newfound power, he summons a blood nightmare. Red tendrils of blood erupt from the ground, enveloping the remaining monsters and holding Caesar captive. As Caesar screams to be released, King coldly tells him to die. He activates his berserk mode and uses splattering gore, punching Caesar with enough force to send him flying. Caesar is shocked that the attack penetrated his armor, while King notes the defense-ignoring skill is useful, but the associated blood loss debuff means he must end the fight quickly. Caesar recovers, unleashing a powerful counterattack and boasting that his 20 years of training make him superior. He explains his choice to become a strength-based destruction king and unleashes his ultimate skill, the instant-kill heaven-breaking punch. The punch shatters the blood nightmare, and Caesar mocks King for daring to meet it head-on, confident in his superior strength. In response, King allocates all 176 of his free points to strength. His physique instantly becomes more muscular, shocking Caesar, who doesn't understand what's happening. Caesar laughs it off, but King is confident that the sudden boost of nearly 300 points is enough to match him. Their fists collide in a massive explosion of energy. Caesar is blown away, stunned by the power of the skill-less punch, while Zhu Tong watches in awe. King lands and tells the defeated Caesar there is no time to be shocked as the battle must end. He declares that Caesar can now join the cannon fodder team, triggering a flashback to 8 years prior. A younger Caesar is seen ordering novices to clean equipment, telling them the weak only exist to shine the shoes of lion-hearted hunters. He mocks them, saying they are destined to be cannon fodder for life as a demonic monster looms behind them. A young man, desperate to prove he's not incompetent, charges the monster alone. The monster easily defeats him with an energy beam. Later, in a healing tank, a doctor details the man's catastrophic injuries, revealing he is a younger Caesar. The doctor explains that abyssal technology will save his life by transplanting monster cells into him, but the price is that he will become a mixed breed, a revelation the doctor finds amusing. In another memory, a figure on a throne officially welcomes Caesar to the Lionheart Guild, tossing him an emblem and telling him to be his dog. When Caesar asks about his teammates, he is coldly informed that the useless brats are all dead. He clenches his fist, accepting the brutal reality that those who cannot prove their worth are treated as trash. In the present, Caesar's body begins to transform, and a system message announces a massive increase to all his stats. His wounds instantly heal as he punches King with renewed force. He absorbs the energy from nearby magic crystals, explaining his transplanted monster organs allow him to do so. His transformation completes, giving him horns and fangs as he boasts of power that surpasses an abyss boss. The system registers him as a boss-level threat, just as another notification informs King his berserk mode has ended, leaving him exhausted for 30 seconds. Cursing the timing, King braces himself as the monstrous Caesar rushes forward, shouting that one only needs to give up their humanity to become a monster without restraint. Yi King declares he accepts the price of his own strength, preparing to face the transformed Caesar. Zhu Tong watches in terror, believing Yi King is no match for this new power and that the weak are destined to cower before the strong. The monstrous Caesar laughs, saying he had to take on this ugly appearance to become strong, then turns his attention to Zhu Tong. He advances on the terrified bard, declaring him the last witness to the failed mission and offering him a heroic death. As Caesar attacks, Zhu Tong begs him to wait, saying he has last words. Caesar grabs him by the throat, asking what a trash bard could have to say. Zhu Tong states that he wants to leave the abyss alive and that he might not be the only witness to this tragedy. Suddenly, the blood nightmare that had dissolved earlier reforms into Yi King behind Caesar. Caesar is stunned, realizing he only killed a clone. Yi King warns him that such power comes at a heavy price, explaining that just as his own berserker skill causes exhaustion, Caesar's unnatural fusion with the abyss will also demand payment. Caesar furiously denies it, but his body begins to contort violently as he transforms again against his will. He grows into an even larger, more grotesque monster, staring in shock at Yi King. The beast throws a massive punch, but Yi King meets it head-on, stopping it cold. Yi King notes that the new form is slower and presses the attack, landing a flurry of blows on the giant creature. Wishing he had a weapon, Yi King hears Zhu Tong call his name and turn to see a dagger flying through the air towards him. Yi King catches the dagger, ready to finish the fight. He leaps forward, kneeing the demonic Caesar in the face before following up with a quick slash from his sickle. Caesar blocks the attack, but Yi twists and slices across his chest, drawing blood as red petals scatter from the wound. Caesar stumbles back, shocked that every hit is a critical one. He stands firm, stating that he only added a few points to agility and Caesar is still beneath his notice. Enraged, Caesar screams that humiliating him will only make his death worse because he is a higher existence. Dodging another swing, he scoffs at the notion, grabbing Caesar's arm and engulfing his own fist in flames. He declares that in his eyes, Caesar is nothing but a monster before landing a fiery punch. Caesar screams as his body mutates further, becoming more twisted and monstrous until he lets out a ferocious roar. He watches, realizing Caesar has completely mutated and is too far gone to be saved. Amidst a swirling purple abyss, he asks if Caesar can hear its call. The fully transformed demon screams for Yi to die and not drag him down. He rages, questioning why he can't be let go after proving his worth, yelling that he isn't cannon fodder. Zhu Tong watches from the side, telling Yi that Caesar has gone completely insane and now is their chance to act. A system window appears before Yi, issuing a challenge to win the battle without killing Caesar to obtain rare rewards. Zhu Tong thinks it's impossible, but Yi decides to try for the rewards. He tells his companion that there's no need to kill Caesar, declaring that monsters belong in the abyss. He shoves the raging beast toward a dark portal on the ground, explaining that those who give up humanity are welcomed by the abyss. This is its regulation. The scene flashes back to a man in a cave, stepping through a treasure-filled chamber, marveling at the fortune he'll have if he survives. He laughs maniacally about getting rich and changing his fate as he opens a glowing chest. The scene shifts to a bar where Zhu Tong is on his knees, begging to call Yi boss and follow him from now on. At a table, Zhu Tong enthusiastically recounts how he was inspired by Yi's declaration of preparing to become a king his whole life. He looks embarrassed, admitting he was just trying to sound cool and was spouting nonsense. Zhu Tong insists it wasn't nonsense and that Yi's encouragement helped him find his purpose, declaring his ambition to become the king of supports. Yi silently reflects that with Zhu Tong's low stats, encouraging him to fight would only get him hurt. As Zhu Tong excitedly describes them fighting as a team, Yi interrupts him, advising him not to enter the abysses anymore. He explains that a support who is too weak and needs protection himself is not qualified. He apologizes, saying he doesn't want Zhu Tong to keep risking his life, and offers him a pouch of 1,000 magic crystals to live on. Zhu Tong looks dejected, but understands Yi's intentions. His expression hardens as he declares he cannot accept living like trash and doesn't want to be looked down on, even in death. Seeing his resolve, he pulls out a large sword, recognizing it as Lao Lai's. He tells Zhu Tong that since bards are a hybrid class, he can use the magic weapon to cast support spells while also learning to fight, as a favor he owes to their fallen comrade. Holding the sword, Zhu Tong says he doesn't need the magic crystals. He smiles and tells him to give the crystals to the families of Lao Lai and Lao Zhu, confident they will earn more in the future. Zhu Tong agrees enthusiastically. In a debriefing room, a woman reports that S-rank job changers were dispatched after the Blood Red Moon incident. They discovered the bodies of the Blood Oath Guild, confirming their leader Caesar had transformed into a monster and was dealt with. They also identified the body of Chen Xinji Dian, a known team killer, who they presume was killed by the mutated Caesar. A man in a suit concludes this is an unexpected but manageable factor. The scene shifts to a hospital at night, where a figure in a patient's gown cowers on the floor, begging for forgiveness. Suddenly, a hand holding an abyssal key crushes it, unleashing a massive wave of dark purple energy that engulfs the hospital and spreads into the city. People on the street scream as they recognize the abyssal gate, shouting for someone to call the officials. The scene flashes to a nightmare of a fiery battle where a man holds off a monster while telling a young boy to run and not look back. The boy is caught, and a white-haired girl reaches out, screaming for her brother. He jolts awake in bed, sweating from the recurring dream. Remembering something important, he heads to a flower shop where he buys his usual bouquet from Miss Zhang to visit his sister. As they stand outside, she mentions seeing many vehicles with job changers heading towards the hospital. Alarmed, he looks toward the hospital just as the massive abyssal gate erupts. He leaps into the air, soaring towards the chaos. He lands on a vehicle as an officer tries to maintain a lockdown, who's startled by his sudden appearance. Another officer yells at the first for letting him pass, but is told that Yi and the others who arrived earlier are people they shouldn't mess with. Surrounded by purple energy, Yi vows that he won't fail his sister this time as he walks into the abyssified hospital. He finds a cleared room and a discarded high-level magic potion, realizing a well-equipped squad has already been through. He picks up the bottle, knowing he'll need the magic recovery for the solo rescue mission. He reaches a fork in the path and activates his scouting vision. A system message warns that both paths are a point of no return. Seeing the recent marks left by the first squad, he chooses the other path to increase his chances of finding his sister, knowing he must hurry. The path behind him is swallowed by darkness, sealing his route. He attempts to use the Eye of Argos to map the area, but the system informs him it's ineffective in this abyss of rule, explaining why the previous team resorted to carving marks on the walls. He enters a quiet room filled with fleshy tendrils and draws his dagger, sensing a trap. A hooded, skeletal figure wielding a massive scythe emerges from the shadows and lunges at him. He dodges and counters with his dagger, but a system hint declares the attack ineffective. He stares in shock as he realizes the creature has physical immunity. The monster unleashes a deafening roar that leaves him with a deaf status, severely reducing his perception. The experience triggers a memory of encountering monsters of rule 3 years prior in a cave filled with weeping stone statues. His former companion had warned him not to look away from the statues, as they would petrify while being watched but would attack at blinding speed the moment he shifted his gaze. Back in the present, he deduces the current monster must also follow a specific rule. He unleashes a flame explosion, which seems to affect the creature, though the backlash burns him as well. Realizing his fire control is unstable, he notes the strange combination of the monster having physical immunity while using primarily physical attacks. He successfully parries another scythe swing. He finally understands the rule. The demon spirit only materializes when it attacks, and in that brief moment, it loses its physical immunity. He lunges forward, but the spirit dissipates and reforms behind him in a more powerful second form. This new form is afraid of light, flinching away even from the faint glow of his healing magic. With a new plan, he decides that if he can't throw a fireball, he will become one himself. Activating his spirit dash skill, he transforms into a flaming projectile and charges the demon, unleashing a massive explosion upon impact. The demon's spirit is defeated, but he is thrown back, his health critically low and his arm severely burned. Laughing at the high price of victory, he uses his recycle ability on the spirit's remains, obtaining a soul-bound artifact card, the Soul Reaper. As his regeneration cooldown ends, he heals his wounds with a swirl of green energy, vowing that his sister Xiaoju's brother is coming. The scene shifts to a grim chamber where a young, white-haired girl, Xiaoju, calmly squishes a small monster under her foot. She's then confronted by a massive, brutish, orc-like creature that crushes her teddy bear under its boot. Lying on the ground, she looks up defiantly, vowing that she will never let her brother be bullied as the monster roars down at her. In a dark, stone-paved dungeon splattered with blood, a young girl with light-colored hair lies on the floor, cornered by a hulking, muscular creature wearing a black executioner's mask. The girl, terrified, cries out for her brother to save her. As the beast lumbers closer, a whooshing sound cuts through the air, and a massive figure appears behind it. The monster's head is sliced clean off in a spray of dark blood. The girl looks up in shock as a large man wielding an enormous greatsword stands over the dead monster. An info box identifies him as Wu Ming, a dual swordsman. The girl, still on the floor, realizes he is a hunter. Wu Ming pays her no mind and begins to walk away, but she shouts at him, and he turns back. She scrambles to her feet and begs him to take her with him, but he coldly informs her that there are no more monsters and she should just hide. He warns that following him would be a death sentence. Her expression hardens with resolve. She declares that she has to stay alive until she can see her brother again. This is because of a promise they made. A flashback to 7 years prior shows a doctor explaining to a young boy that his sister's spinal nerves were severely damaged, and it's a miracle she can even move her upper body. The boy asks if this means she won't be able to stand up either. The doctor confirms that severe spinal nerve damage is theoretically irreversible, at least by scientific means. He mentions, however, that he has heard of miraculous recoveries happening in the abyss, suggesting a cure might be found there for ailments that science cannot fix. The doctor concludes that if her disability was caused by a monster from the abyss, then the cure might also lie within it. The boy, clutching his hands, asks if he could heal his sister if he could enter the abyss. But the doctor scolds him, calling him an idiot and stating that entering the abyss without a proper level is suicide for a job changer. He then brings up the more immediate problem of her daily treatment costs, which are at least 8,000 yuan. The boy promises he will do his best to raise the money and asks the doctor to please take care of his sister. The doctor agrees, but reminds him that the medical bills must be paid on time. As the boy walks away down the hospital corridor, nurses gossip about his tragic situation, mentioning that both his parents died and his sister is disabled, leaving him all alone. He enters his sister's room, announcing his arrival. His sister, propped up in bed, asks where he went. He sits on her bed and tells her he was consulting with the doctor, then announces he is going to a place called the Abyss. She asks nervously if it's safe there, and he reassures her with a strained smile that it is. He lies, saying it's not dangerous at all and that he just has to follow behind others. He then remembers something and presents her with a white teddy bear, telling her that it will protect her on his behalf while he is away. His sister looks down sadly, pleading with him not to go into a place with monsters since he is the only family she has left. He insists, telling her he found a high-paying job that will be enough to heal her legs, and if she waits a little longer, she'll be able to stand up. She tearfully replies that she would rather sit in a wheelchair for the rest of her life than have him rely on dangerous methods to make money. They make a pinky promise, with him vowing not to put himself in danger. Back in the present, the girl, whose name is Xiao Zhu, reflects on that promise. She knows her brother would try to enter the abyss if he knew she was there, and she can't let him risk his life for her again. Neither of them can die. Wu Ming watches her, finding her stubborn will to live interesting. Xiao Zhu finds her wheelchair nearby, thankful it is still intact. Wu Ming reiterates that he won't protect her from monsters since she is not his commissioner. She says she will just follow from a distance and won't get in his way. He then introduces himself as Wu Ming, a dual swordsman. Meanwhile, in another part of the abyss, a scavenger, Xiao Zhu's older brother, reflects on the rules of the abyss, noting that pre-existing injuries like his sister's cannot be healed by potions found within. He enters a chamber littered with the corpses of hunters and monsters, concluding a brutal battle took place. He finds no tracks of any surviving monsters, assuming a hunter made it out. His eyes widen when he discovers a massive beast sliced cleanly in half. His observing eye detects no magic, leading him to believe it was done with pure brute force by a bone-crushing level existence, someone far stronger than the other job changers. Elsewhere, Wu Ming walks down a grand, dark hall with Xiao Zhu following in her wheelchair. Suddenly, several star-shaped projectiles fly at him, which he deflects with his greatsword. The projectiles, revealed to be small metal stars, embed themselves in his chest, but he seems unaffected as they are absorbed into his skin. He turns to Xiao Zhu and asks if they shall get going. She nervously asks if it will hurt, to which he replies with a confused A flashback begins 4 years ago in a location labeled as the ActionToon A-class abyss. A skeletal king, a boss-level monster, is shown in combat. Wu Ming, younger and dressed as a mercenary, watches the chaotic battle. An elderly man with a large white mustache screams at his mercenaries, berating them for their poor performance despite the large sum he paid them. Wu Ming reflects on his life as a criminal without legal status, forced to work as a mercenary for private hunting groups, taking on near-suicidal missions for double the pay. The employer yells that he'll give 100,000 credit points to whoever kills the overlord, desperate to get the final treasure. He then doubles the offer to 200,000. Another mercenary shouts a bid of 250,000 cash payment, and Wu Ming steps forward to accept the job. The overlord lets out a fearsome roar and the battle intensifies. The employer laughs maniacally, ordering them to go kill the monsters for him. The skeletal overlord with glowing orange eyes unleashes an attack, and the mercenaries are quickly overwhelmed. The employer, now terrified, screams for Wu Ming to save him, reminding him that he can only get paid if he gets out alive, and that he is the one who bought their lives. Wu Ming intercepts the overlord, blocking its attack. In the ensuing struggle, Wu Ming is wounded but manages to defeat the monster. As the overlord crumbles, it drops a glowing purple and green orb. The employer shoves the injured Wu Ming aside, rushing for a treasure chest. Wu Ming, coughing up blood, reminds him that the pay is double. The employer scoffs, asking what a dead man needs money for, and boasts that he didn't waste his money buying information about this hidden abyss for nothing. He eagerly opens the chest, only to find it completely empty. As he stares in disbelief, a cloud of sand erupts from the chest, engulfing him in a curse. Wu Ming, caught in the blast, wonders if he was hit too. He then notices the orb the boss dropped, the Corpse King's jewel. A description screen for the immortal relic artifact appears, explaining that its soul binds to the bearer, turning them into an undead creature. It notes that sacred and healing spells will cause fatal damage, but ordinary damage cannot kill them. The cost of this transformation is the loss of the ability to feel pain and emotional changes. Wu Ming realizes he has become someone who cannot die. Back in the present, Xiao Zhu stares at a wound on Wu Ming's arm, from which sand is pouring out instead of blood. She asks what curse he has been afflicted with. He ignores her, prompting her to yell at him for ignoring her. In another location, the Scavenger is single-handedly fighting off a horde of blue-skinned monsters. He reflects that he had to distribute his accumulated stat points evenly because he was in a rush, leaving all his stats around 200 points. Even so, the endless waves of monsters are exhausting. A system notification warns him that his mana is below 5%, leaving him unable to use skills. He realizes he must rely on his pure stats to fight. After clearing 4 consecutive rooms, his fatigue is immense, and his mana is only at half its maximum. He has used all his lightweight mana potions, saving the larger ones he found earlier for critical moments. He continues to cut down monsters with his dagger. Facing another onslaught, he summons a large, red, skeletal scythe known as the Soul Reaper. He knows it has massive side effects, but hopes its Despair Reap trait will activate on a dying enemy and restore his health. He swings the scythe, and a system tip confirms the effect has triggered, fully restoring his health and mana. He notes that while this saves him potions, the card's skill's cooldown increases with repeated use. Suddenly, he hears a noise and looks down to find a pair of glasses on the floor. A man with gray hair pops out from behind a barrel, pleading for his life and asking if the Scavenger has seen his glasses. After retrieving his glasses, the man introduces himself as Song Qingshan, a doctor and researcher at the hospital. He claims a bunch of monsters suddenly appeared in his ward, forcing him to hide in the barrel. The Scavenger asks if he has seen any other survivors. Song dismisses the possibility, stating that this is an abyssal hospital and even uninjured people couldn't survive, let alone the disabled with missing limbs. Enraged, the Scavenger grabs Song by his collar, questioning how a doctor could say such a thing. Song cowers, explaining he is just a doctor, not a professional fighter, and had to prioritize his own safety. He asks if the Scavenger is there to save him, mentioning that the Lionheart group must have promised a staggering reward. The Scavenger notices a dropped item on the floor, a golden pendant with a lion's head, which he recognizes as the emblem of the Lionheart Hunter group, a supergroup that only accepts the strongest. Song points out that the Scavenger came from the ward area and suggests the exit is in the opposite direction, trying to steer him away from the patients, whom he dismisses as poor cripples with no money to offer as a reward. The Scavenger coldly states he is heading that way because his sister is there. Realizing the Scavenger isn't from Lionheart to save him, he becomes hostile, declaring he only collects garbage, not saves it, as a dark purple aura emanates from him. Intimidated, Song changes his tune, explaining that the place has become a deep labyrinth and offers to guide him, saying they can find his sister together. He leads the Scavenger to a swirling purple teleportation gate. As they approach, the Scavenger asks which group Song belongs to, and Song looks back, surprised, when the Scavenger says he came alone. Song laughs, finding it hard to believe a capable person would still work alone in these times, as they are usually snatched up by top groups like Tartarus or Lionheart Hunt. He offers to introduce the Scavenger to some good groups after they get out. The Scavenger cuts him off, telling him his sister's name is Izayaju and ordering him to shut his mouth and lead the way. Song freezes in shock at the name. A flashback reveals Song being briefed on 2 minor test subjects, one of whom is Izayaju. His superior reassures him that their families are powerless. Izayaju's brother is a struggling clairvoyant, and the other girl is an ex-convict with no one. When asked how he convinced them, Song recalls manipulating the girls by telling them they were burdens on their families. He offered them a new treatment to cure their disabilities, and both readily agreed to participate. In a lab, a director praises Song, referring to the test subjects as trash of society being used for the greater good of helping job changers break their bottlenecks. They prepare to commence an experiment with abyssal embryos that can be sold for billions. However, the injection fails on the first subject, as the abyssal cells reject the host, causing a violent explosion within the containment tube. An alarm sounds. The other test subject's father is causing a disturbance. The father is dragged in, beaten, demanding to know where his daughter is. The director calmly points to a containment tube where the girl's body is dissolving into a skeletal form. He presents the father with the compensation agreement for the failed experiment, but states they need to recover the body for research. Enraged, the father screams that they are scum and questions their humanity, only to be held down by guards. The director callously states it's better for a cripple to contribute to society with their body than live a meaningless life, then orders the insolent patient to be thrown into the abyss. He then asks about Izayaju's status. No energy is detected, so further observation is needed. The director is unconcerned about her brother, dismissing him as a mere scavenger. Back in the present, Song nervously denies knowing Izayaju, his mind racing with terror. He realizes her brother is far stronger than he was told and recalls pushing the girl into a den of monsters to save himself. The scavenger notices him stop and asks if he's forgotten the route. Song lies, claiming he's just worried about his sister and that monsters appeared in the hospital room, forcing him to run out, attempting to shift the blame for her inevitable death. The scavenger suddenly punches Song in the face. Before he can follow up, Wu Ming appears, catching his fist. Wu Ming confirms the man is Director Song, stating he received a commission from Lionheart to rescue him. The scavenger recognizes him as the one who left the greatsword traces. Wu Ming introduces himself as a double-paid mercenary, for whom losing a few teammates is no problem on a high-paying commission. The scavenger feels a murderous intent from Wu Ming's sword and says he's not trying to obstruct his mission. He explains that Song was supposed to lead him to his sister, who was in a room just behind where Wu Ming came from. He tells Wu Ming he saw a girl there. The scavenger's eyes widen in alarm, and he demands to know where she is. Wu Ming tosses him the teddy bear, saying the girl was cute but unfortunately didn't make it through. As the scavenger stares at the bear in disbelief, Song celebrates silently, thinking he can now live on. Wu Ming explains that he told the girl he wouldn't protect her if monsters attacked, but he did promise to deliver a message. She hoped to wait at the hospital entrance for her brother so he could see she was fine and not risk coming inside. Enraged, the scavenger asks why he just stood by while she was in danger. Wu Ming coldly replies that a mercenary's duty is only to complete the commission and get paid. He doesn't care about anything else. He adds that due to his curse, those who follow him are fated to die. As the scavenger fumes, Wu Ming offers to give him accurate directions if he leaves Director Song to him. The scavenger asks what if he refuses. Wu Ming attacks, shouting that he won't show sympathy for anyone, not even former comrades. The scavenger dodges the massive sword swing and lands a punch on Wu Ming's chin. He then summons a glowing purple dagger and clashes with Wu Ming, activating a disarm skill that makes Wu Ming's weapon vanish for 8 seconds. The scavenger notes that Wu Ming is skilled at hand-to-hand combat despite being a greatsword user. Wu Ming explains that double-pay swordsmen often act as sacrificial pawns and must learn to fight with their bodies, admitting he wasn't using his full strength. His greatsword reappears as he prepares a powerful, rock-breaking slash. The scavenger analyzes the attack, noting that the greatsword's power is limited by its immense weight and slow swing speed, making it possible to interrupt. Dark blood erupts across the cold stone floor as the scarred man Wu Ming attacks with blinding speed. Yi King grits his teeth, acknowledging how fast his opponent is. He leaps acrobatically through the air, a purple aura trailing from his hand as he dodges the next blow. As he lands, he thrusts a card forward, summoning monstrous spider-like creatures from a swirling purple portal, much to Wu Ming's surprise, who asks if he even has summoning abilities. The summoned creatures swarm Wu Ming, wrapping him in thick webs, but he just scoffs with a powerful shout, declaring that it will be funny if King is just going to rely on these monsters to stop him. Wuming unleashes a devastating, rock-shattering strike, a wave of red energy that obliterates the summoned creatures in an instant. He tells King that if he thinks he can be defeated with such petty tricks, he is seriously underestimating him. King manifests a purple aura around his fist and dashes forward, thinking that if it weren't for the weight of his sword offsetting the punch's force, Wuming's body would have been pierced. He concludes that Wuming is not one of the incompetent level 0 personnel he's used to. He notes that Wuming's strength is far beyond that, and that his own combat skills are not far behind. The scene flashes back to Wuming standing over a young woman with white hair in a wheelchair, who asks him if he's strong and wonders who is stronger between him and her brother. The woman, Yahello, proudly states she has the best brother, who fights hard every day as a scavenger to change his fate, and that she dreams of being as strong as him. Wuming scoffs at this, remarking that scavengers are just level 1 personnel, and that the job has nothing to do with strength, causing Yahello to cry out that he's lying. Someday. Wuming looks down at her, recognizing the gaze of someone who has been through countless life and death trials. Back in the present, King recalls Wuming using his last potion at a critical moment. He analyzes his opponent, noting that Wuming is a dual-handed swordsman with a health bar that isn't overwhelmingly high, and calculates that he could defeat him in 3 hits by stacking buffs and exploiting weak points, though he seems different from other class changers. Wuming wears no armor and wields only a greatsword, fully committing to his attacks in an inclusion body style of fighting. The two clash again, blades swinging in arcs of light. King is enveloped in a purple aura as he prepares a counterattack, his eyes glowing with power as he recognizes his opponent's incredible reaction speed. He activates a card for a soul dash, striking Wuming and causing notifications for a severe injury and lucky critical hits to appear. King finds it strange that Wuming isn't dodging at all and seems to not mind being struck. A strange mark appears on Wuming's neck, much to King's confusion. Wuming lets out a roar as he is pushed back. The two fighters clash again, their weapons meeting with a resounding clang. King is thrown back by the force of Wuming's attack, but he recovers and unleashes a powerful blast of purple and orange energy. The attack engulfs Wuming, leaving him standing amidst smoke and glowing embers. Kneeling on the ground to recover, King learns from Wuming that he possesses a trait that prevents him from being killed by normal attacks. King wonders if he is an immortal, and Wuming explains that the abyss is full of existences beyond modern understanding, including professions, skills, and even more unique things like curses. He calls it a divine punishment one must bear to gain powerful strength. A flashback shows a monstrous, bandaged entity telling a younger Wuming that while filled with the fear of death, one can't resist testing its limits. The entity mockingly notes that the unpredictable gods noticed him and that he obtained the power he craved, but warns that they also took the most precious thing from him. In the present, Wuming's body cracks and disintegrates slightly, as King realizes he must have an undead trait. He recalls that the rumors of abyss monsters transferring their traits to class changers must be true, and that the undead trait allows for infinite regeneration as long as one's energy doesn't run out. Another flashback shows someone remarking that Wuming is a lone star of misfortune, as all his teammates die on missions, leading to speculation that he is a team killer to collect the full commission. Back in the fight, Wuming stands amidst glowing embers and declares that he has paid the price for eternity, dying yet continuing to live perpetually. Wuming's sword ignites with orange flames as he clashes with King. A system notification for a skill called Wish of Death appears, explaining that it activates below 33% HP, doubling both damage received and damage dealt. King realizes that this skill combined with the curse is simply cheating. The two trade blows in a flurry of motion and violent impacts. King wonders if the undead trait is truly unbeatable, certain that in a contest of strength, his victory is a foregone conclusion. He activates a divine artifact, a card showing a Grim Reaper figure as he continues his assault. A massive spectral Grim Reaper appears behind him, wielding a giant scythe. Wuming recognizes it as a green-gray divine artifact, realizing it's not a physical weapon but a skill effect. King explains that when any target dies from the skill, it triggers Despair Harvest, which recovers his HP and mana. And since Wuming's body is already dead, the skill activates with every hit. Wuming admits King has figured it out, praising his ability to discern information. King states that every seemingly unsolvable puzzle in the abyss has a way to be broken, and that a powerful person can be a clumsy brute. He deduces that Wu Ming's weakness is outside his body. His self-sacrificial style is a deliberate misdirection to hide a fatal flaw. Yi King posits that among the 6 attributes, there must be one that Wu Ming cannot cover. Wu Ming is impressed, but Yi King declares he is different from most, a hexagonal warrior who distributes his points evenly, and that he must finish the battle quickly. He dashes forward, thinking that Wu Ming's speed, strength, and reaction far exceed those of other class changers his age. Yi King proclaims that he has mastered all techniques, from peculiar skills to raw power, even garbage talents others ignore. He continues his relentless assault, explaining that while physical attacks can't kill Wu Ming, the continuous consumption of mana will slow his regeneration until he finally dies. He summons his scythe again, preparing another attack. The spectral reaper strikes, but Wu Ming's arm begins to disintegrate as his mana consumption falls behind. Yi King notes that in a war of attrition, he would have a slight advantage. Wu Ming concedes that every puzzle has a solution and reveals that Yi King's weakness isn't in combat, but somewhere outside of it, as a small teddy bear lies on the floor between them, having fallen out at some point. Wu Ming picks it up with a menacing grin, telling a shocked Yi King that he doesn't show sympathy to those who try to stop him, but that Yi King is different because he still has the morals of a living person. He asks how Yi King would choose between the life of his sister and Song Qingshan. Yi King is stunned, asking if Xiaozhu isn't dead. Wu Ming smirks, asking when he ever said she was dead, and explains the bear is just a token to prove he knows her location. The scene flashes back a few hours to a large chamber where green-skinned monsters are being slaughtered. In the chaos, Xiaozhu is being threatened by one of the monsters. A memory surfaces of her brother telling her that if a monster harms her, he won't help, as she didn't commission him and he doesn't care about her life. Another memory shows her brother telling her he found a job that earns enough to treat her leg, and that she just has to wait for him. Crying, Xiaozhu thinks she doesn't want to be a nuisance or a burden to her brother. She desperately prays to the heavens to make her stronger, even for a moment, and her eye glows with a strange purple light. A monstrous, shadowy form erupts from her. A system window appears announcing a new skill has been unlocked, Shapeshifter. The monstrous form, a giant, terrifying teddy bear, easily dispatches the remaining beastmen. Wu Ming arrives to find the aftermath of the battle, thinking that those tempted by abyss cells are more likely to awaken skills, and that this girl must be one of the victims his father spoke of. He recalls hearing that changes from abyss cell temptation make the host lose their mind and attack everything. The monstrous bear turns and lets out a roar. However, the bear then speaks, wondering what happened and why it feels so much taller, marveling that it can walk now. Wu Ming is surprised she hasn't gone mad and asks for her name. She stammers out her name, Xiaozhu, confirming for Wu Ming that it's her. She looks down at herself in horror, realizing she's turned into a teddy bear and panicking about what to do, feeling too embarrassed to meet her brother now. Wu Ming tells her it's her own skill and he wouldn't know how to turn her back, preparing to leave on his mission. Xiaozhu asks him to bring the small toy bear to her brother and tell him she needs time to prepare mentally. Wu Ming returns to the present, telling Yi King that if they continue to battle, he has the advantage and wants to see his true capabilities. He says they have no reason to interfere with each other, and confirms that Xiaozhu is not dead, shocking Yi King. Wu Ming reveals that the doctor, Song Qingshan, is the one responsible for the dangerous situation his sister is in, and that the abyss appeared because of him. A flashback shows a man clutching a key, resolving that his only plan left is to use it to open a door and flood the lab with the power of the abyss. He wants to ensure that the damn guy, Song Qingshan, stays there forever, body and soul, to pay for the pain his daughter suffered. Wu Ming asks Yi King if he is aware of the consequences he must face, and Yi King replies that it's nothing to him. The scene shifts to Song Qingshan talking to someone, dismissing a girl named Lin Shuyan as a useless piece of junk, and questioning her father's understanding of profit maximization. Yi King appears behind him, his eyes burning with anger as he realizes this means Xiaozhu is also involved. The doctor turns, startled, and tries to explain that she just fell into the abyss before he could help, offering compensation for the experiment she chose to be a part of. Yi King scoffs at the offer of compensation for his sister, whether she's dead or alive, and asks how easy it is for him to say that before punching him squarely in the face. As the doctor lies on the ground, bleeding, he whines about how a cripple who can't even walk isn't worth cherishing. Yi King glares, replying that he was just maximizing her value as a person, and that she should feel honored to be a sacrifice for scientific research. He angrily states that Xiaozhu is the only family survivor from a past disaster, and that the doctor will never understand. The doctor stammers that he didn't mean it that way, but a giant, shadowy hand with glowing purple runes erupts from the ground and seizes him. King grabs the terrified doctor by the collar, telling him he's so worthless that not even hell would take him. He then tosses the doctor into a swirling purple vortex, telling Wuming that he's his now. Wuming catches the doctor, confirming they've reached an agreement. King states that he only wants to ensure his sister's safety as quickly as possible and nothing else matters. Wuming reminds him that a mercenary's duty is to fulfill the commission, and his father's wish was for the doctor to die here. The doctor desperately offers to pay double what the old man paid, but Wuming coldly asks how he can pay double for a life when a person only has one. He smiles and tells King that they'll have a proper, all-out fight next time, before disappearing into the purple light with the doctor. A tiny, monstrous bear peeks out, timidly calling for its brother. King turns, apologizing for being late. The giant bear form of Yahello appears, saying it's fine and that she should be the one to apologize for always dragging him down. King walks towards her, telling her it's all okay now and she's perfectly safe. Yahello tearfully explains that there's still a monster right there, revealing that it's her. She confesses she hated being a burden and just wanted to stand up from her wheelchair so she wouldn't hold him back anymore. King smiles gently, telling her that some people may look human but are monsters inside, whereas she still has the heart of his cute sister, even if she looks like a monster on the outside. He says this is what she is now, and that his job is to deal with monsters, so he knows what a real one looks like. Yahello notices the beastmen corpses and asks if he did all this, seeming pretty strong. He asks if she was the one who killed them all, and she proudly admits she swatted them to death when she first transformed, commenting that just one hit was enough and she must be at a high level. As she speaks, a bright light envelops her and she begins to shrink, reverting to her human form as she falls to the ground. She looks at her hands in surprise, realizing she's turned back. King sits with her, explaining that the transformation spell consumes mana, and when it runs out, she reverts to her original form, proving she's not a monster but just has an ability. He tells her that as a shapeshifter, she can walk freely in her bare form and congratulates her on becoming a job changer who can stand on her own. She happily asks if she can be like her brother, but he firmly tells her he will never allow her to step into danger. She then asks if he's met someone who looks a bit like him, someone who wanted to meet him because they have things in common. She recalls the man saying that her brother must be as hard to kill as he is, leaving King to muse that it doesn't sound like someone he'd get along with. Back in his room, King answers a phone call from his old boss, Uncle, who scolds him for being absent for days and hearing he went solo. King apologizes, explaining he was desperate for money and had to find a job that paid quickly. Uncle asks if he's still scavenging, and he confirms he is. Uncle expresses his worry but is relieved King has a new job, reminding him to be careful for his sister's sake. After hanging up, King looks at his phone, which shows a notification for a 2.4 million yuan transfer from Liexingren. A small chibai version of her pops up, reminding him she sold the stuff in her name and he shouldn't forget to thank her. He marvels at all the zeros, recalling how he sold all the loot from his recent expeditions under her famous name to avoid suspicion. A flashback shows him on a rooftop at night with Liexingren, surrounded by high-level gear. She asks where he went to come back with such great equipment, and he replies that he just scavenged some junk in the abyss. She doesn't believe him, demanding the truth, but he insists he has no use for the high-class items anymore. She laughs, finding it embarrassing that he's still a level 1 scavenger, though she notes he seems more well-built. He laughs it off, saying he's gone through some stuff and is more mature now. She deduces that the scavenger occupation must be a new job that allows one to get stronger without leveling up. He plays along, saying it makes sense for a guy picking up trash to get stronger. She then offers to help him take the hunter exam at the World Committee to get a legal justification for the things he finds in the abyss. She explains he'll need a referee and offers to be his to guarantee success, and he eagerly asks if he can really do it. She confirms, saying he helped her greatly and she owes him one. The scene shifts to the next morning where Yahello has prepared a bento box for him. She is up early, not wanting to lie in bed all day on her first day back. When he asks about her leg, she says her body has changed a little since yesterday and she can move a bit now, demonstrating by standing up from her wheelchair for a moment. She explains she was scared of breaking the house by turning into a bear, so she concentrated the magic in her knees. He tells her not to force herself, but she insists she isn't in hopes to control it enough to stand up soon. As he leaves, telling her he has something to do, she asks where he's going on a weekend. He replies that he has to work, and as the door closes, she blushes, wondering if he's going to see a woman, perhaps his girlfriend. Yi King arrives at a large building, looking down at the crowd below. He sees many strong-looking individuals gathered and wonders why this job is so competitive. A voice from behind asks if he is also there for the hunter exam and which team he wants to join. The protagonist stands on a sky bridge, surprised to see his friend Zhu Tong call out to him. Zhu Tong approaches and asks the protagonist why he would be at the location for the hunter exam, then wonders aloud if he never received a hunter certificate in the first place. The protagonist explains that he's taking the exam now because he has more money, as it's not cheap. Zhu Tong recalls the protagonist already having a certificate ages ago, but the protagonist clarifies that he's been practicing close combat since then. He explains that the certificate isn't doing much for him, as most hunting teams assume he is just trying to leech experience, so he needs to convince them he's good at fighting. Zhu Tong encourages him, saying that with a new hunter certificate, he'll surely become the main DPS, a plan the protagonist confirms as he leaps down a flight of stairs. Nearby, two large men aggressively tell someone to get lost. A red-haired man with a cigarette complains about the annoyance of having to line up for what he calls a stupid certificate. The red-haired man's subordinates shove people out of the way, demanding they move for their boss. One of them loudly proclaims that their boss possesses a God-chosen job and threatens to beat up anyone who gets in his way. The protagonist observes this, realizing he's just seen someone with a God-chosen job and recalling info on Liu Xingren, an S-class God-chosen knight with a wide array of powerful skills. He muses that such jobs amplify strengths while subduing weaknesses like a blessing from God. He decides to register after the arrogant man, as Zhu Tong mutters that the man is just lucky. The red-haired man impatiently demands a certificate from the examiner. When she asks which one he wants, he smugly replies that as someone who is God-chosen, he would obviously be applying for the all-in-one certificate. Other applicants are shocked to hear this, whispering that he's going for the all-in-one certificate, though they concede it makes sense for a God-chosen individual to pass all the job requirements at once. One of the subordinates tells the protagonist's group to stop staring, calling their boss a top talent and them nobodies. A woman with long purple hair steps forward, skeptically repeating his claim of being a top talent. The red-haired man, surprised by her beauty, crudely invites her to team up with him for the exam. The woman scoffs, telling him to get a grip if he thinks she would team up with him. He persists, telling her not to be like that, and boasts that his God-chosen job makes him good in bed as well as in a fight. The woman's face twists in fury as dark energy crackles around her, and she unleashes a fiery explosion that engulfs him. His subordinates watch in shock as he is blasted away, wondering how a supposed beginner could hit so hard, while another warns the woman that she has no idea how scary their boss truly is. The protagonist notes her instantaneous explosion means she's no beginner. Onlookers mock the singed man, laughing at his stunned expression. Enraged, the red-haired man gets to his feet, calling the woman a bitch and vowing she'll pay for making him lose face as he draws a wicked-looking blade. As he lunges, the woman tells him he has a death wish for daring to hold her back. A dark, menacing aura flares from the protagonist as he grabs the red-haired man's arm, stopping him mid-attack. The protagonist calmly warns him that there are examiners around, and using his skills so recklessly will get him into trouble. The red-haired man reluctantly complies, intimidated by the protagonist's scary aura. Just then, armored guards arrive, stating that it is prohibited to use skills in public spaces. The protagonist tries to de-escalate, saying not to worry about it as it's a hot day and everyone is annoyed. The purple-haired woman apologizes, explaining that the man was harassing her. An examiner warns them that if they break the rules again, they will be arrested by law. The examiner then asks the woman for her job and the certificate she is applying for. She states she is a fire elementalist applying for a magical damage dealer certificate. Due to her actions, the examiner requires her to place her hand on a crystalline device. As her hand touches the glowing blue crystal, it begins to flash and beep rapidly, indicating an abnormal strength index score. The examiner explains that due to recent incidents with unregistered high-skill hunters, they've increased safety precautions and asks her to follow him. The woman, with her eyes suddenly obscured by her hair, claims it must be a malfunction and asks to try again. The examiner touches the crystal again, which now gives a single, normal beep and tells her it's working fine now. The woman cheers that she passed. The protagonist watches, finding it odd how she seems like a completely different person now. He quiets Zhu Tong, pointing out the person they won't look into as someone like her. The examiner calls for the next person and the protagonist steps forward, declaring that he is next. At the registration desk, The examiner asks what certificate he is applying for, and he states he wants the all-in-one certificate. The examiner looks at him sternly, remarking that only the god chosen dare to apply for that certificate, and asks for his job. The protagonist calmly states that he is a scavenger at level 1. The crowd erupts in laughter, calling a scavenger trash and a garbage job. Zhu Tong angrily tells them to shut up, boasting that his brother can crush them with one hand. The protagonist tells the examiner he just wants a role that can suit any team to handle any situation, and asks if there is a problem. The examiner says that technically he's allowed, but asks if he knows what all-in-one applicants are tested on. The purple-haired woman walks by, asking if he is a scavenger, and if that's a new job, while the protagonist wonders if there's a test. The examiner explains with a grin that while everyone else synergizes with others to complete quests, an all-in-one applicant must do it alone, showing him a quest scroll with a high difficulty rating. She warns him that even an easy quest is tough for one person and that he's digging his own grave. The protagonist simply asks if he will get the certificate as long as he beats the abyss. The examiner clarifies that this test is reserved for experienced hunters and that he would be suiciding. She says that based on his cockiness, he's either an idiot or a hidden master, and asks him to place his hand on the stone to find out. After he does, she looks at the result and declares that he is an idiot after all. The onlookers mock him, with one saying his brother is nothing but a joke and another wondering if he has a death wish for trying to enter the abyss without magic. Zhu Tong tells them to shut up. The protagonist, unfazed, asks if there is anything else. The examiner, noting his stubbornness, states that they won't be responsible if he's set on killing himself. She tells him that teleporters are banned, but he can use the key she provides. As the protagonist takes the key and walks towards a large, ornate gate, Zhu Tong tells him not to go, but the protagonist just tells him to come back safely. The protagonist enters the gate alone. After he disappears, the red-haired man and his goons rush forward, demanding to be let in as well. He questions why trash like the protagonist can challenge a high-level dungeon, demanding the same key to try the same thing. The examiner informs him that there is only one key per difficulty, and he'll have to reserve it for next time. The red-haired man then suggests he go down with the protagonist, but not as a team. The examiner clarifies if he means he wants to be his competitor, explaining that while teaming is banned, there are no regulations against competition. She explains that as a competitor, only the one who walks out with the boss's loot will be the victor. She warns him not to secretly work together, as the dungeon's difficulty rises exponentially with more people, becoming a nightmare level. An infographic shows that one person enters hard mode, while 2 people enter nightmare mode. This, she says, is why they only allow 1 person at a time. Abnormal circumstances like this can bring endless possibilities, such as special enchantments and buffs to the monsters. She asks if, knowing all this, he will still challenge the dungeon. The protagonist thinks to himself that she is referring to elite monsters with special enchantments, something he's seen before. The red-haired man declares that he has the strongest loot, and these dungeons are too easy for him, as his subordinate holds up a case of powerful equipment. The protagonist observes the gear, noting it gives powerful buffs like plus 100 strength and plus 200 speed, and thinks that even a noob can increase their potential with good loot, the advantage of a pay-to-win hunter. The examiner asks what he's thinking, and the protagonist says he doesn't mind, as he's just trying to get a hunter certificate anyway. He secretly hopes the nightmare-level dungeon contains rare monsters so he can obtain interesting corpses. Zhu Tong begs him not to press his luck, warning about dungeons with random boss rooms or magic-locking debuffs. The red-haired man tells his subordinate not to worry, saying the protagonist has nice armor they can use if needed. At the gate, the protagonist tells the red-haired man that since they are competitors, he won't help if he's dying, reminding him only one can pass. He then mockingly suggests the god-chosen one open the door, trusting his luck. The red-haired man smirks, saying the protagonist knows his place, and declares that people call him the Hand of God as he turns the key in the lock. A system notification announces the abyss has increased to nightmare level, with monster quantity up by 300%, monster HP by 150%, and monster damage by 70%. Another notification reveals a Nightmare Land effect, increasing the number of affected monsters by 300%. A new debuff appears. All healing in the dungeon is reduced by 75%, though Nightmare Cordy's healing potions will work quicker. The red-haired man curses at the debuffs, looking at his large backpack full of potions he brought to tank through, now rendered useless. The protagonist thinks that it's not just potions, All healing is toned down, making his own man-eating plant and soul-reaping skills less effective. He realizes the consequences of going berserk would be greater now, so he must use it carefully. The red-haired man throws his potions away in frustration, but declares his armor will destroy all the monsters anyway. He dons his full plate armor and confidently states he is heading in first. A system notification reminds them that with a second member joining, the difficulty has increased to nightmare level. Another notification pops up, announcing a legendary challenge. A legendary monster will appear in the dungeon, and defeating it grants legendary rewards. The examiner is shocked, realizing a legendary mutation has occurred, an event with only a 0.01% probability even with 300 luck points. She marvels at the protagonist's luck and immediately orders someone to inform the higher-ups to send reinforcements. Meanwhile, other teams enter the easy-level Abyss Gate, vowing to do well as Yutong watches the high-difficulty gate, hoping his big bro can return safely. Inside, the two men find themselves in a vast, dark chamber. The red-haired man complains that the stupid statues are a lame entrance, claiming his front garden is much better. The protagonist calmly states that this is the boss room, shocking his competitor. Two massive, stone-like knights stand before them, their stats described as never dying, extremely fast, and causing permanent blood loss. The protagonist analyzes the situation, noting the 4 attributes make them tough for a nightmare-level dungeon. He plans to summon his spider to grab one monster's attention, then use his speed to get behind it, knowing their armor is strong on the front but weak on the back. He decides against using berserk and will focus on their weaknesses first. As he prepares to summon his spider, the red-haired man roars for them all to die, declaring he won't let anyone get the boss loot. He yells that they will see what is called the Crusher King, but is immediately smashed into the ground by one of the knights. The protagonist sighs, thinking his competitor is fucked. The knight's massive hammer slams down again, but the red-haired man is still alive, complaining about how hard they hit. The protagonist notes his armor seems to be stacking his defense, amazed it didn't break from the shot. The Knight of Purity attacks again, and the protagonist dodges as the knight now targets him, ruining his plans. The knight's attack causes permanent blood loss, meaning even the slightest damage could be fatal in this abyss. As the knight swings its massive weapon, the red-haired man gets caught in the attack as well, complaining about being hit even though the monster is fighting the protagonist. The protagonist tells him the knight doesn't care and that he should hide in a corner if he doesn't want to get hit. The man retorts that he just slipped and wasn't a burden. Another monster, the Knight of Valor, activates its ironclad defense. The protagonist notes this skill seems to be a counter against tanks. He uses a skill card, Spirit Dash, to avoid an attack, while the red-haired man tells him to watch as he handles it. The protagonist observes that his competitor is alleviating the pressure, making him not totally useless, and realizes that to fight 2 bosses, they must collectively act as a proper hunting team. He punches the Knight of Valor, sending it stumbling back. The protagonist notes that his competitor is a tank whose defense was broken, so of course he got one-shotted, and now the monster is even angrier. He thinks the man should really be a tank, just as the downed man groans about how much it hurts. A system reminder states that the taunt skill's target can only deal damage to the initiator. With a green aura, the protagonist prepares to fight, acknowledging he can't focus on one monster and must defeat the other, bigger one too. He attacks the ironclad knight, but his dagger only deals 1 point of damage, confusing him as monsters in the abyss usually die in 1 or 2 strikes. The red-haired man also attacks, dealing only 1 point of damage as well, and yells that the other one should be moving too. He asks the protagonist if he put all his skill points on defense, having no attack at all, and wonders how he leveled up so much without attacking. The knight retorts that it's because of his skill, but the protagonist interrupts, telling the idiot not to get distracted mid-battle. The protagonist explains that his nimble fighting style goes against his heavy armor, limiting his movement. The man admits no one told him that before, as he usually just waits for others to finish. A caption reveals him to be Wu Sangxi, a conglomerate boss who pays others to help him level up, focusing only on defense so he can win as long as he doesn't die. A huge attack forces the protagonist to yell at the idiot Wu Sangxi to move aside, telling him the abyss has never been a fun place, but where people trade blood and sweat for their livelihood. He decides that since slashes won't work, he'll resort to blunt force. Wu Sangxi is shocked to see him use the specialty tactic of the poor, bare hands. He watches in disbelief as the protagonist's fist connects, thinking that the strength stat buff alone is enough to deal damage. A system notification flashes, indicating a critical hit to a weak point has inflicted a stun. The protagonist is surprised one punch inflicted a status effect, attributing it to his luck stat. He follows up with a series of brutal, bloody punches, mutilating the stunned knight. Wu Sangxi screams in shock at the sight. The protagonist, surrounded by blood, calls it the usual. He analyzes that Wu Sangxi's DPS is too low to keep aggro and his tanking is insufficient. He admits he didn't expect him to contribute much anyway and that he'll have to control the battle flow himself. He tells Wu Sangxi to move aside. He then launches himself at the other knight, unleashing a flurry of glowing blue strikes that land as critical hits on its weak points. He moves with incredible speed, dodging all the heavily armored spots and landing every attack on a weak point. Wu Sangxi realizes his technique is sharper than any expert he's ever hired. He's bewildered, asking how a supposed newbie could use such advanced techniques. The protagonist explains that while he's a newly classed fighter, his years in the scavenging team fighting monsters to his limit have built up his experience, allowing his skills to skyrocket after classing up. His current physical growth multiplies the instincts he's honed through blood and sweat by hundreds of times. Wu Sangxi is confused, asking if you don't just naturally get stronger with better equipment. The protagonist replies that equipment is just something you swap out as you level up, while his ultimate equipment is his own body that keeps growing stronger. The remaining knight activates a Thorn's ability, reflecting melee damage back to the attacker. The protagonist sighs at another mechanic monster, realizing he can only counter Thorns with ranged damage. Wu Sangxi declares it's his turn to shine, revealing he can also use magic and that the protagonist will have to rely on him. He casts a lightning arrow, but it fizzles out weakly. The protagonist, meanwhile, unleashes a massive fire explosion on the knight, causing a critical hit due to its lowered elemental resistance while Thorns is active. The Knight of Courage swings its massive axes, and the protagonist intentionally gets hit, using the Thorns effect to reflect the damage back onto the monster. Wu Sangxi is amazed by the technique of using the monster's own thorns to counterattack. The protagonist notes his spirit dash is on cooldown and braces himself to take a direct hit. The knight's attack slams into him, the force shattering the ground. He lands on his feet, thinking that the knight's unpredictable attacks, prioritizing weak points, surpass any elite monster he's faced. He knows that if his body didn't have enough attribute to withstand it, the strike would have been fatal. He realizes the knight's hidden mechanic is that the more you dodge, the easier you are to hit, so you have to take it head-on, a truly hell-rank, brutal mechanic. Wu Sangxi yells at the idiot, asking if he's trying to get himself killed by clashing directly. The protagonist ignites his fist with fire and clashes with the knight, causing a massive explosion. The knight roars in pain. The protagonist lands, stating he's not trying to get killed, but has to be faster and stronger than it. His body erupts in a violent purple aura as the knight also powers up, a notification stating that living beings cannot be salvaged. He unleashes his Berserk Carnage skill, which makes him unstoppable and allows his attacks to pierce immunities at the cost of continuously losing health. He shouts for it to take his full power strike. He lands a critical, armor-breaking strike on the knight's weak point, noting there's enough time to finish it before he bleeds out, as a notification states his remaining HP will last 20 seconds. But the monster roars and instantly self-heals. The protagonist is shocked that his string of attacks only took off 70% of its health. He realizes the boss's traits stack the longer the fight drags on, and he must finish it immediately. He knows if he stops fighting, gives up, or hesitates, he will die. He decides to bet what's left of his HP on a second Berserk, vowing to utilize the 7 seconds he has left, as the double health loss buff has compressed the duration. He prepares to end the fight in one move with a blow strong enough to finish it. He gathers an immense amount of rocky debris around his fist and smashes the knight's head into pieces. Wu Sangxi stares in disbelief, realizing the protagonist had just surpassed the boss in strength. The protagonist stands over the rubble, breathing heavily, as Wu Sangxi thinks about how he actually considered challenging him. A notification congratulates him on defeating the dual gatekeeper knights, completing the gate trial, and removing the abyss difficulty debuff. With his HP at 10%, he's finally able to drink a health potion. He downs several vials and laughs that he almost died again. He then turns to the disintegrating corpses and says it's time for the long-awaited salvage operation to begin. Monstrous, shadowy hands erupt from the ground and consume the knight's corpse, shocking Wu Sangxi, who realizes the protagonist is eating the boss's corpse with some bizarre class skill he's never seen before. He concludes that this person is a more terrifying existence than the monsters. After the salvage is successful, the protagonist obtains 2 skill cards, Multi-Blade Strike, the Knight of Purity's signature sword technique, and Courageous Roar, a shield-based taunt skill that can transfer debuffs. He decides to hold onto the shield skill for now. The Knight's souls are then inserted into an equipment item with a chance to create a new random piece of equipment. A massive, demonic-looking forge altar rises from the ground, which the protagonist recognizes as the legendary low-chance reward event, the Forge Master's Altar. He figures the stacking difficulty modifiers combined with his overflowing luck stat turned a low-probability event into a high-probability one. He decides to test it out with his plain old starter dagger. Wu Sangxi calls him a fool for not using his strongest equipment, assuming he must have some purple-tier gear. The protagonist explains that the starter weapon is the only one he can use, as he sells any equipment with a level requirement above one. Wu Sangxi is stunned, realizing the protagonist has been fighting this whole time at only level 1 without any high-level equipment. The protagonist says there's no other choice, holds up the glowing dagger, and decides to strengthen it then. The system notifies Yi King that enchantments have a chance of failure, with the probability related to his luck stat and the weapon's level. It detects his level 1 dagger and displays an astonishing estimated success rate of 200%. He marvels that the rate can exceed 100%, and another notification asks if he wishes to execute a morph command, which would change the dagger's type to a longsword. He confirms the enhancement, and the dagger erupts in a flash of red energy. A system message declares the enhancement successful, and the single dagger transforms into 2 brilliant red longswords which he now holds in his hands. However, a final notification appears, bluntly stating that the result is trash. Yi King smirks, thinking that their quality and appearance definitely look legendary despite the system's verdict. A stat card appears for the trash sword, describing it as a flashy but impractical one-of-a-kind legendary trash item with 30 attack power. Another card shows an identical replica, another trash sword. He wields the 2 swords, one glowing orange and the other red, saying he likes them. A masked knight laughs, commenting that the sword's stats are total trash and that even luck has its off days. Yi King retorts that while they may be trash for others, they are perfect for him. He tells the knight not to say he has never seen what god-tier equipment looks like before unleashing a massive slash of purple energy. Raising his hand, he utters the word salvage, and the 2 swords are consumed by swirling purple and black energy. He holds the condensed purple essence, remarking that weapons that can be infinitely salvaged are essentially god-tier equipment only he can use. The knights watch in shock, one wondering if his ability is to use trash weapons to get stronger, while the other muses that he might be the god of trash. Yi King then turns his attention to a discarded Forge Master's altar, deciding it also counts as trash he can take. He commands his minions to salvage the altar, which is enveloped in a purple vortex. The salvage is successful, and a notification informs him he can now summon the altar anytime. Holding the altar's card, he feels pleased, thinking he can now use the reward event whenever he needs to enhance his trash swords. He decides he is tired of daggers, and it is time to try a new weapon, which makes the masked knight wonder if he plans to dual-wield 2 longswords. The armored knight warns him of the huge penalties for using 2 unfamiliar weapons, but Yi King ignores him and opens the weapon panel, which confirms a 50% drop in attack speed and accuracy. He wonders if he can spend BP to speed up his skill learning, and a system window offers to upgrade his dual-wielding proficiency to grade D for 10 BP. Realizing he can use BP from trash to improve skills, he decides to max out his proficiency directly. The masked knight sputters in shock, screaming and asking what he just did as notifications flash by, showing the proficiency upgrading through grades C, B, and A. It finally reaches grade S. Sometime later, in a large stone hall, he notes that the room's challenges are done, and a new gate should appear. The masked knight, however, announces that he is forfeiting the round, unwilling to risk his life in such a high-difficulty abyss when he has money to spend outside. As he turns to leave, tendrils of red and black energy erupt from the ground, and a system warning announces combat mode. Yi King senses something is wrong with the red fog and yells at the knight to move aside, but a dark tendril whips past and severs the man's arm. The knight screams in agony as Yi King curses for being too slow. He realizes the gate trial was just an appetizer, and the real boss was what the knights were guarding, as the knight's formidable defenses were cut through like paper. Dark energy swirls violently, coalescing into a vortex from which a pulsating red orb emerges. A massive creature begins to crawl out, identified by the system as the Dark Elf King Damasther. Damasther immediately attacks, sending the masked knight flying and slamming him brutally to the ground. King summons a card and declares that his S-grade proficiency will allow him to dual-wield with enough speed to pull aggro. He leaps into the air, calling for the aggro to be pulled to him as he unleashes a multi-blade strike, but a notification informs him the attack is ineffective. Damasther's tidal lock state means only its aggro target can damage it. Shocked that his attacks are useless, he watches as Damasther brutally cuts down the masked knight. Outside the abyss, a man in a suit sees one of the two life signals vanish, noting that only one remains. His colleagues dismiss the death as unsurprising for a level 1 noob in a legendary abyss, but one notes that at least he found a legendary creature, making his death worthwhile. A notification announces Death Drain, stating that Damasther has taken a kill and its power has increased. The aggro is then diverted to King. He grimaces, realizing that while the boss is finally focused on him, it's now even harder to deal with. Apologizing to the corpse of Wu Sangxi, he touches the body and instantly learns several dual-wielding techniques, including two-handed sword parry and whirlwind slash, followed by meteor strike. He muses that his S-grade proficiency allows him to master these skills instantly and challenges Damasther to come at him. The creature lunges forward with shocking speed, and King thinks he can't avoid death with his reduced HP regeneration slowing him down. Damasther casts Gravity Vortex, and King is shocked as he is pulled helplessly toward the swirling red orb. He lands hard, thinking he needs to buy time to recover, but as he is pulled in by a second Gravity Vortex, Damasther casts Anti-Magic Strike, interrupting his super regeneration. He coughs violently, realizing with only 1 HP left, a single touch will kill him. He chuckles, thanking Damasther for the harsh lesson on the abyss's unpredictability, then shouts salvage and begins to fight again. As he battles, his skill proficiencies for Meteor Stab, Emergency Evasion, and Whirlwind slash all increase. He vows to witness his body becoming visibly stronger and faster, more unbreakable. His sword's durability can't keep up, but he declares it's no problem. As long as it's salvageable trash, he has unlimited chances to start over and commands the swords to reforge. Soon, Damasther's HP bar is visible and nearly empty. King pants that the creature is nothing to fear now, but a notification warns that Damasther's rage has escalated. Outside, King's companion argues with overseers about the lack of a rescue attempt. A gray-haired man scoffs at saving penniless trash, but the companion insists his boss will walk out alive. As the overseers prepare to enter, golden flames erupt from the gate. King emerges, asking if getting the item counts as passing the test. His companion cheers exuberantly. The gray-haired overseer is stunned, demanding to know how he got the golden rune stone, a token that only drops from legendary monsters. King tosses him the stone, confirming he killed the monster and cleared the abyss. The overseer refuses to believe it, accusing him of being a team killer who stole the victory from Wu Sangxi. The companion furiously defends him, but King calmly states they won't find a corpse. After confirming the abyss is empty, King points out the lack of evidence and questions the basis of their accusation. Reluctantly, the overseer congratulates King on earning his all-rounder hunter license. At that moment, Liu Xingren appears, asking King why he is there. She clarifies that with the golden token, he can form his own hunting group and asks if he mentioned her name. When he admits he forgot, she calls him dumb. The overseer objects, saying the token was reserved for someone more powerful. King's companion argues, but the overseer dismisses them, stating King's power score was only D and the committee would laugh at him. Suddenly, the energy stone detects massive attribute fluctuations, with the values approaching S+. King tells his surprised friends not to get so close and calmly states he is just taking back what is his. Purple energy streams from the golden token into King. The overseers use a measuring crystal, which promptly explodes. As they reel from the S+ reading, King suggests they find a better measuring method. Liu Xingren remarks she knew he'd pass easily. King tells her it's easier to persuade them with brute force than by name-dropping. A friend of his, Zhaorong, excitedly greets Liu Xingren, reminding her he was a rapper at her disastrous birthday party. To change the subject, he suggests a celebration party at her house, causing both her and King to panic. After awkwardly arranging a party for the next night, King leaves, stressed about needing to change his appearance. Back home, his sister Xiaozhu scolds him for going to the abyss again and seeing his injuries. In the shower, he reflects that his accumulated injuries have become permanent, unhealable damage. He examines the reincarnation option he unlocked after defeating Damasther. He recycles his victory reward, gaining the Gravity Vortex skill and 140 attribute points. However, he finds his stats are capped at 512. The system explains he must reincarnate, resetting to level 0 to break his attribute and level limits. Recalling the insults and his struggle to protect his family, he realizes his goal is still far away. He decides he cannot accept a limit on his growth and must overcome this hurdle. With a look of sheer determination, Yi King declares that he cannot accept a limit on his growth and must overcome this hurdle to become even stronger than before. He lets out a final yell as his body is enveloped in a bright light. Elsewhere, a young woman named Xiaoju looks at her phone as a system message pops up, announcing that his reincarnation has succeeded, his rank has been reset, and his growth cap has been raised to rank 5. Yi King looks at his own hands in surprise, realizing he wasn't made to start over from 0. He flexes, noticing that all his wounds and scars have been completely healed. Xiaoju rushes in, telling her brother to stop lying. If he isn't hurt, then she asks where all the bloodstains on his clothes came from. He looks at her with a tired expression. He replies that that's great, but now they need to change houses. Yi King, now dressed in a sharp black suit, arrives at the Shenfeng City Equipment Auction House. He notes that goods from the abyss are diverse and must be carefully identified, making formal auctions the best place to sell them outside of the black market, as the best equipment is put up for bidding and purchased by the wealthy. As he approaches the entrance, a guard stops him, asking what he's doing here and stating that unauthorized persons are not allowed entry. Yi King explains that he is a collector and wants to appraise some equipment to put up for auction. The guard scoffs, questioning if he is a collector and what rank he holds to act so brazenly. Yi King thinks to himself that even if he had reached his max cap of rank 5, this man's impression of him wouldn't be any better, so he simply states that he is rank 1 for now. The guard angrily asks if he even knows what kind of place this is, berating him for being a nobody trying to cause a scene in a house where only the wealthiest spend their money on the highest-ranked equipment, before telling him to shoo. Yi King calmly holds out a unique dagger, suggesting the guard appraise it before saying more. The appraiser scoffs, asking if he is joking and questioning if he even needs to appraise trash equipment, but then decides to humor him just to make him leave. Using a calculator-like device, he inputs the data, and the result comes back as return 0. He smugly asks if Yi King heard that, telling an assistant named Oh Yuan to toss the dagger in the bin as he leaves, adding that he won't even charge him a trash processing fee. As the assistant reaches for it, the appraiser suddenly stops him, exclaiming that the dagger is surprisingly sharp and something is wrong. He puts on a pair of appraisal glasses, telling Yi King to wait a minute so he can take another look. He fumbles with his appraisal device as the numbers go haywire, realizing with a sweat-drenched face that the item is a unique piece of equipment. The item card for the Void Rift, a unique dagger, appears, describing it as a blade dark as the abyss with the power to leave a portal for teleportation within a 30-meter radius. The appraiser's device flashes error from a divide by 0 calculation, and he shouts in disbelief that he didn't see it wrongly. He thinks to himself that he almost missed an exceedingly rare and exquisite item. A flashback to half an hour ago shows a rundown room. Yi King sighs, thinking that Xiaoju will have to stay in a hotel while he stays in the landlord's basement for a day. He laments that his meager savings won't be enough to pay for another accident in their house and calls up his system menu, noting that the landlord's renovation cost him 2 million yuan, leaving him with only 200. He decides he must find a way to cash in the equipment he picked up, as he's in urgent need of money. He scrolls through his inventory of high-quality but not top-grade equipment, thinking that the market is likely flooded with such items, and they're considered garbage by the wealthy, making them hard to sell for a high price. He figures he might be able to sell a few good ones for a few 100,000 yuan, but then notices a strange forge icon in his system menu. He taps the forge altar icon, wondering if facilities from the abyss can be used outside of it. A massive, ornate forge altar materializes in the small room with a flash of light, nearly hitting him in the face. He coughs from the dust and reads the system message, which states that the ability to forge equipment has been unlocked, allowing low-quality equipment to be enhanced. He realizes this means he can upgrade rare equipment to precious, epic, and even legendary rank, potentially increasing its value by more than 10 times with each level. He selects a rare one-handed sword, the hunter's longsword, to practice on, noting it's not top grade and only worth around 10,000 yuan on the black market. He injects 30 attribute points as a forging cost, hoping to at least double its value. However, a system message announces that the forging has failed, and all he receives is a trash-level fragment of the longsword. He wonders if the failure was due to the item's low grade or insufficient attribute points, and decides to try again with a more valuable item, an epic glove called Titan's Hand, worth at least 100,000 yuan. He pleads for this attempt to succeed, as it's worth a significant amount. But once again, the forging fails, leaving him with nothing but a trash fragment of Titan's Hand. He cries out in despair, lamenting his lost 100,000 yuan and that all he heard was a sound. He suspects the problem might be with the forge altar itself and notices it has an unidentified suffix. He decides to use his observation eyes to identify the altar. A notification appears, stating that the altar's true appearance will now be revealed. The system identifies it as a junk forge altar, and its unique trait is that the forging success rate decreases as the quality of the material increases. The more garbage the material, the higher the success rate. King smiles wryly, concluding it's a forging station specifically tailored for garbage, and wonders if he's cursed by the god of trash, as all his rewards seem to be weird trash through and through. The junk forge altar glows with a bright blue, skeletal aura. King rereads the description and has a sudden realization. If it can only forge junk equipment, then this feature might actually be where it's exceptional. He decides to test his theory by selecting a piece of actual trash, a discarded longsword with a damage of 5 that requires level 1. He throws the trash sword into the glowing altar. A message flashes, forging successful, and from the trash emerges Eclipse, a unique longsword with damage of 422 and multiple enchantments, requiring level 32. King is stunned, realizing that he created a unique, one-of-a-kind collector's item by reforging a piece of junk. He declares that the junk forge altar is a divine artifact, and that he has picked up a real treasure this time, seeing it as a money printing machine given the amount of junk equipment in his inventory. He enthusiastically begins forging, shouting for the printing to start. A succession of forging success messages appear as he transforms junk into unique items. He creates Night Song, a unique longbow, Mantra, a unique staff, and Thunder, a unique hammer, each with powerful stats and abilities. As more and more success messages flash across his screen, he sits amidst a pile of cardboard boxes filled with his newly created treasures. He counts dozens of unique equipment pieces he has forged and receives a notification that he has reached level 1 Scavenger, noting that he gained experience just from forging without killing monsters. He smiles, thinking that all that's left is to figure out how to turn this gear into cash with his new hunter's license. Back in the present at the auction house, the appraiser is surrounded by the unique items King forged. The appraiser asks where all the equipment came from. King repeats that he's a collector, explaining that even a level 1 can collect high-quality goods, thinking it's better than revealing he made them himself and inviting unnecessary trouble. The appraiser agrees enthusiastically, saying collectors are judged by taste, not level, and that King's powerful collection reflects his strength. King adds that he has quite a few more pieces, and if the auction price is appropriate, the appraiser can also make a lot of commission. He pulls out another unique item, the Void Rift Dagger from earlier, causing the appraiser's appraisal device to go haywire again with a divide by 0 error. The appraiser screams for someone to prepare the highest class VIP room and a platinum VIP induction for King. Later, King is being escorted through a lavish hall, looking at the platinum VIP card in his hand with some disappointment. As he walks, he bumps into a large, imposing man. The man angrily turns, demanding to know where this fool came from and telling him to watch where he's walking. King apologizes, saying he wasn't paying attention. The man sizes him up, noting his ordinary suit from a street vendor and remarking that he doesn't look like someone who belongs in such a high-class place. The man scoffs, saying it's no wonder he looks so shabby if he's just a free hunter, and then proudly introduces himself as Lang Zio Feng, the Tatus Mad Blade from the A+ Hunter group Tatus. King recognizes the name, recalling that Tatus is known for being war maniacs who recruit simple-minded, strength-focused berserkers, and that he has had unpleasant encounters cleaning up their battlefields before. Deciding it's better not to antagonize them, he apologizes once more. Lang Zio Feng sneers, asking if he thinks a simple sorry is the end of it, calling him a bastard with the surname Yi. He accuses King of sneaking in, reminding him that this is a member-only entrance for high-level hunting groups, and that scumbags like him should queue up at the exclusive entrance for other scumbags. King calmly warns him that this is a venue under the World Guild, and he'll get into big trouble if he uses force. Lang Zio Feng grumbles about his bad luck, questioning if a scumbag like King has the right to walk on the same path as him. He loudly calls for security, demanding as a high-ranking member of Tatus that they kick Yi King out and verify his identity. As security guards approach, Yi King smiles, thinking he's struck the lottery. However, one of the staff members intervenes, addressing Yi King as Sir, and asking why he came to the member's entrance when he should be using the platinum entrance instead. Lang Xiaofeng is shocked, questioning how a free hunter could possibly afford the exorbitant platinum VIP fee, and orders the guards to pin him down. The staff member profusely apologizes to Yi King, who waves it off as no big deal. Lang Xiaofeng shouts at the guards not to touch him, proclaiming his status as a high-ranking member of Tatus. But the staff member warns him that if he insists on causing trouble in a World Guild auction house, they will notify the supervisor and cancel his membership. The staff member then politely suggests to Yi King that he can also enter through this lower-level venue if he wishes, though he fears it may not have equipment that would draw his interest. Yi King replies that may not be the case, as his perception is slightly different from others. He adds with a smirk that who knows, he might find a treasure amongst what everyone else thinks is trash. The staff member laughs, agreeing that he is very right, and asks him to please walk this way. Later, inside the grand auction hall, patrons gossip about a batch of unique equipment that was put on the market and instantly snapped up by wealthy people for millions of yuan. One man complains that it's from a collector who sold off all their stock, while another sighs that in front of true professionals with the financial backing of large hunting groups, little fish like them can only buy the leftovers. Meanwhile, Yi King receives notifications on his device that his equipment, Thunder and Meteorite Shield, have been sold for final bids of 175,000 yuan and 810,000 yuan respectively. He thinks to himself that the equipment was as popular as he expected, and if he's ever short of money again, he can just forge some more. The auctioneer announces the start of the blind auction, where all Abyss equipment will be in an unidentified state, meaning there's a risk of buying both top quality and junk items with no returns or exchanges. The first item, a gorgeous but unidentified ring, is presented with an asking price of 500,000 yuan. Yi King, observing from the VIP balcony with his discerning eye, finds the ring interesting. He notes that no one is bidding, likely because the first item is usually a warm-up piece or a trap, and decides to liven up the atmosphere a little. He places a bid of 1 million yuan. Below, Lang Xiaofeng scoffs, wondering if that bastard thinks he's a rich man and declaring there's no way the broken ring is worth anything. The auctioneer announces the million yuan bid, causing a stir among the crowd, who now wonder if the item is a real treasure since a platinum VIP is bidding so much. Someone in the crowd bids 1 million, and the auctioneer acknowledges it. The bids quickly escalate, with Yi King calmly outbidding everyone, first with 1, 2 and 1, 4 million, then jumping to a heavy-handed 2, 5 million. The crowd buzzes, realizing the platinum VIP must know it's a treasure, and Lang Xiaofeng decides he has to get in on the action. He confidently bids 3 million, certain he's bringing it home. Yi King immediately counters with 4 million, his bank balance showing 79 million. Lang Xiaofeng curses Yi King for stepping on him again, while his subordinate advises him not to be impulsive, as 4 million is already an exorbitant price for an unidentified ring. Lang Xiaofeng, however, believes the ring must be a top-quality item if Yi King wants it so badly, and declares he cannot let him succeed, screaming a bid of 5 million. Other bidders remark that 5 million is usually reserved for unique equipment, and spending so much on an unidentified ring could bankrupt a small hunting group. From his balcony, Yi King taunts Lang Xiaofeng, asking how it feels to be just a free hunter with a net worth of a few million trying to compete with someone backed by a big hunting group. Enraged, Lang Xiaofeng ignores his subordinate's pleas and bids a staggering 10 million. The crowd is in shock, unable to believe a free hunter could take out 10 million so casually, a sum large enough to set up an average-sized hunting group. A brawny man in the crowd demands an inspection of Yi King's bank balance, accusing him of malicious bidding to disrupt the order and demanding he be thrown out. After a moment, the auctioneer confirms that the bid is valid, shocking the crowd and confirming Yi King's net worth is over 10 million. Lang Xiaofeng realizes he's kicked his foot into a steel plate this time, understanding Yi King must be a hidden rich man, but he refuses to let the arrogant bastard disrespect him. Proclaiming himself as the representative of the A+ Tatus hunting group, he declares there's no way he'll allow a free hunter to crush him under his foot. He weakly bids 5 million, but Yi King immediately and casually counters with 100 million. The bid sends shockwaves through the hall, with Lang Xiaofeng looking on in utter disbelief. Yi King leans back, thinking that it doesn't matter if he blows everything on a piece of trash, as he can just produce more unique equipment of the same value tomorrow. He mockingly asks Lang Xiaofeng if that's all he's got, and if he's really going to let a free hunter look down on him. The auctioneer begins the final count, with Lang Xiaofeng sweating, now convinced the ring must be a 1 in a million super treasure. He recalls Yi Qing's earlier words about finding treasure in trash and believes he has met a true expert. Convinced this is a heaven-defying treasure for his hunting group, he decides he must call the bid. As the auctioneer calls going 3 times, Lang Xiaofeng slams his hand down. He screams out a bid of 200 million. The entire hall is stunned, with people commenting that 200 million is enough to bankrupt even a middle-rank hunting group, and that the Tatus group must be incredibly wealthy. Yi Qing taunts Lang Xiaofeng, asking why he doesn't have a lot of money and isn't good at pretending to be rich, goading him to keep shouting to show off his group's financial strength. Yi Qing then calmly concedes, stating that Lang Xiaofeng has bested him and the treasure is his. Lang Xiaofeng laughs triumphantly, asking if the bastard still dares to go against him and declaring him far from worthy. His subordinate panics, reminding him they were there to bid on equipment for their brothers and questioning how they'll explain spending 200 million on a single ring to their boss. Lang Xiaofeng reassures him that it's definitely a divine item and his analysis can't be wrong, as the auctioneer congratulates him on winning the ring. From his balcony, Yi Qing thinks that while unidentified equipment has a chance to be legendary, given his experience with the junk-looking forge altar, this ring must also be trash. His suspicion is confirmed as his discerning eye reveals the item's true nature. An ornate iron ring, a trash item with +1 attack power. He muses that his discerning eyes won't deceive him, and he already knew the result of the appraisal in advance. Lang Xiaofeng eagerly holds the ring, telling it to transform into a divine item and let everyone see what they've missed. He begins the appraisal. The item is identified as an ordinary-looking iron ring. Lang Xiaofeng holds up the plain iron ring in shock, before letting out a horrified scream of iron ring. Later, the Tatus group's leader is seen berating Lang Xiaofeng, who blames the bastard surnamed Yi for his lapse in judgment and begs for a refund, claiming his 200 million bid was just nonsense. The auction house enforcer, a large, muscular man with blue hair, coldly informs him that as the acting representative, he is responsible for the bid, and the guild will collect the fees from his hunting group within 24 hours. As he's dragged away, Lang Xiaofeng screams that it's all Yi's fault. Onlookers whisper about how Yi Qing just destroyed an entire hunting group without shedding a drop of blood, remarking on how terrifying a platinum VIP is. The auctioneer calmly moves on to the next item, a wild transformation necklace that grants immunity to movement control effects and a self-healing ability. Yi Qing recognizes that the necklace is perfectly tailored for Xiaoju and decides to bid on it as a small gift for her. He casually bids 1 yuan. The crowd immediately recognizes his tactic, whispering that the platinum VIP is preparing to harvest someone again and recalling how Lang Xiaofeng was ruined over a piece of rubbish. They conclude it's a trick and that whoever dares to raise the bid is an idiot. The auctioneer looks out at the silent hall, with one person muttering that the platinum VIP must be a hired hand of the auction house. The enforcer challenges the crowd, asking if none of them will make a bid. Everyone remains silent, convinced it's an obvious scam. Yi Qing smirks, thinking that being misunderstood can be a unique advantage now that no one will follow up on his bid. The auctioneer has no choice but to declare the deal, congratulating the mystery platinum VIP for winning the wild transformation necklace for 1 yuan. The crowd groans in frustration, realizing a unique necklace was just sold for $1, and lamenting that they were too foolish to try bidding themselves. Yi Qing sips his drink, thinking it's outrageous. Checking his phone, he sees his current auction revenue is 180 million and decides now he can buy the really good stuff for himself. Later that night, a real estate agent shows him a view of the city, pointing out the king of buildings, the best property in Shenfeng City, a luxurious penthouse apartment on the top floor where only the rich can live. She explains that the best luxury properties are vied for by the wealthiest in the city, with a listing price of about 100 million yuan, and suggests a more realistic, traditional apartment that would be affordable with a 30-year loan. Yi Qing cuts her off, saying there's no need to keep looking and that he'll buy the penthouse. The agent stammers that at his current credit rating, he's unable to take out a 100 million yuan loan. Yi Qing calmly informs her he'll pay 100 million in cash upfront. He adds that he has one request. He wants all necessary preparations made before noon, as he wants to be able to move in right away. By the afternoon, Yahello is already in the massive mansion, asking her brother what's going on and how they can afford such a place. King points out that it's spacious enough that she won't have to worry about breaking the ceiling when she transforms. Yahello asks if he bought the mansion because of her, and he confirms he bought it in her name, so even if she breaks it, he'll just buy another one. He then vows that from this day onwards, he will never let her suffer again. Later, on the balcony overlooking the city, two figures are comically passed out on the couches, bloated from a large meal. Liu Su joins King, who is evaluating the outside air, and he remarks that even in the best house in the best location, the air still feels polluted. She congratulates him again for officially becoming a hunter, noting she's witnessed his efforts to turn his life around and asks if he shouldn't be happy now that he's done it. He thanks her, and she tells him to stop having such a glum face since they agreed to celebrate. She presents him with a gift, the crystal stone he had given her before. He recognizes the stone in surprise. She explains that she wanted to return it to him, but as a gift this time. She tells him she kept it carefully for years and wore it whenever she entered the abyss, as it constantly reminded her that there are people who will never settle for the status quo and will challenge fate even at the cost of their lives. She believes wearing it can bring her good luck, and while King agrees that staying alive involves an element of luck, he says he's come to understand that it's never just about luck. He believes that direct action is more effective than persuasion, and that only by standing in front of his enemies alive can he make them shut up without wasting a word. Liu Su says that's what she really likes about him, recounting how people always attributed her success to her family's name rather than her own hard work. She says her dream is to be respected purely for her own ability and to be able to say cool words like her siblings, which is why she is the one who should be thankful to him. He holds the crystal, acknowledging that while it's not valuable in terms of money, his worth, like the crystals, cannot be calculated so simply. She tells him that's why she will always like him, no matter if he's in a mansion or a rental, a luxury car or a shared bicycle, because to her, he is still the super strong guy who scavenges. He recalls an old saying about how becoming rich suddenly isn't that interesting compared to simple street fare, but he admits he does need a lot of money because of something she once said. He reminds her that she once told him if he had more money, he could set up his own hunting group. She confirms that setting up a hunting group requires a lot of funds. He declares his wish to form a hunting group and head towards the most challenging parts of the abyss, because he won't become strong by being alone, just as she said. He concludes that if he can't adapt to the rules of the game in this world, then he should become the rule of this world itself. An old man confronts him, asking which house's servant he is and telling him he's not obeying the rules. The old man explains there's a specific place for servants to put out trash and tells him not to act ignorant, warning that if outsiders see him, they might think the poor are living amongst them. King calmly introduces himself as a new house owner named King, not a servant. The old man, skeptical, snatches the trash bag from his hand, insisting that no house owner in this wealthy area would take out their own trash and that he must be a servant. He orders King to clean up the vicinity and never let him see him again. As the old man turns to leave, King's hand glows with a purple energy. Dark tendrils of energy shoot out and wrap around the old man, who is shocked by what is happening. King's eyes glow as he states that the rubbish belongs to the old man now and warns him to pick it up, or he'll make him. The system notifies him that his suppression skill is restricting the target by brute force, preventing them from using battle skills, as the old man struggles against the magical bindings. King repeats his command to pick it up. The old man screams in defiance and activates a skill called Titanic Power, which should provide a burst of strength to remove body control skills. However, a new system message appears, stating that Titanic Power's effect is ineffective against legendary class body control skills. The old man is stunned, wondering how such an idiot could possess legendary control skills. King thinks to himself that his gravity vortex skill was obtained from a legendary monster, making it naturally stronger than skills from hunter academies. The old man, pinned to the ground, struggles, thinking King doesn't look strong and must be a support-type specialist who got him with a sneak attack. King's voice becomes menacing as he asks if the old man understands what he said, and with a final command to pick up the trash, the purple energy intensifies, crushing the man. Defeated, the old man cries out that he'll pick it up. The energy tendrils force him to pick up the trash and stuff it into a bin. King sighs, thinking that even in a wealthy area, there's still trouble to be had. Back in the World Association residence, a man informs his superior that the Tatus hunting group was cheated out of 200 million by another buyer at the auction. and they have now pushed all responsibility onto Lang Xiaofeng, cutting themselves off from the incident. The superior, a large man with a beard, states that Tatus was a group they supported, and he doesn't want them causing trouble, asking if they've figured out the identity of the other buyer. Another subordinate, a man in a wide-brimmed hat, reports that the buyer once appeared at the hunter qualification exam and was promoted to a full-time licensed hunter. He continues, explaining that their records show this person had a close relationship with the now-destroyed Blood Oath hunting group. They recorded his magical fluctuations from the test stone, and comparing them to the traces left where the Blood Oath's leader Caesar died, the similarities were shockingly consistent. The superior asks if this means he is a special job holder. The man in the hat confirms that a special profession not on the list of jobs is very likely to destroy the existing job hierarchy and introduce unknown chaos to the game rules they created. He concludes that if he cannot be controlled by the rules, he will become an enemy of the rules. The superior, however, looks at the data cube and confidently states not to worry, as the man will abide by the game rules they created. He looks out at the city from his skyscraper, declaring that they are the gods of this era, and the rule imposed by God is that everyone must play their own roles well. King approaches the counter with a golden, orb-like token and tells the pink-haired woman he wants to create a hunting group. The woman asks if he is aware of the requirements, informing him that a one-time founding capital of 50 million yuan must be paid to the World Guild. She continues, explaining that he will need to obtain operating qualifications, similar to a hunter's license, and that his group will be restricted to abyss areas approved by the World Guild. King waves off the concern, stating that funds are not an issue and he can pay in cash. The woman then informs him that many new job holders are in the Hunter Hall seeking to join groups, suggesting he go there to recruit the minimum of 4 other members he needs by the end of the day. A nearby screen flickers to life, displaying the details of the newly formed group. Scavenger's home, with 1 registered member, a level of Class E, and a status of recruiting team members. Onlookers in the hall begin to murmur about a new group forming so late in the hunting season, with one man openly mocking the name Scavenger's home as incredibly lame. Another bystander comments that no one would join such a small startup team, especially one with only a single person, before his eyes widen in realization that it's only an E-class business. The pink-haired woman confirms this, informing King that according to the system's allocation, his business area is E-class resource recycling, the lowest level possible. This means his team can only serve as an auxiliary to a main hunting group. King mutters in frustration that after all this time, he's just going back to his old business of picking up trash. A hulking figure, Faction, appears behind him, remarking on the coincidence that the last time they met, King was taking out the trash, and now it's his actual job. He confirms King's identity and declares that he will make him realize the huge price for the slap he delivered last time, vowing to make him eat filth while happily wagging his tail. Onlookers quickly identify Faction as the son of the influential Fa Tianlin and mention his own recently formed A-level group, Hunting Heart. They gossip about how his father pulled strings to get the license, and how no one who offends Fa Tianlin has a good ending, predicting that this new group will be disbanded by the end of the day due to recruitment difficulties. King calmly tells Faction he is only there to recruit, and they can resolve their personal issues elsewhere. Faction scoffs, telling King he doesn't take him seriously and that things won't be resolved easily. He issues an ultimatum. If King kowtows to him in front of everyone and promises to only recycle the garbage left by Hunting Heart, he will be allowed to recruit. Otherwise, Faction will ensure his group is disbanded today. King coolly retorts that Faction himself doesn't have enough value to be recycled. Enraged, Faction lunges forward, shouting at King for being so bold in his territory. His companions intervene, urging him not to be impulsive in public and suggesting they simply watch as King's group inevitably fails to recruit enough members. Just then, a young man named Zhu Tong rushes up to King, excitedly saying he heard about the new group and wants to be the first to join. One of Faction's men recognizes Zhu Tong as a useless bard from their old group who couldn't use buffs at all. Zhu Tong explains to a surprised onlooker that his past reputation makes it hard for regular teams to accept him. He passionately pledges his loyalty to King, willing to endure anything. King asks if he truly couldn't find any other group, and Zhu Tong confirms it, revealing that he discovered King had offended Faction, which explains why his legendary token resulted in an E-level assignment. He tries to spin it positively, saying a comfy cleanup job is fine since the main force handles all the danger. Yi-King questions the benefit, since the main force monopolizes valuable drops, leading Zhu-Tong to shrewdly guess that the newly rich Yi-King must have a trick up his sleeve. Yi-King grows serious, stating that money can't solve all problems and that true power is the only thing universally recognized. Nearby, Faction addresses a large crowd, announcing that his group, Hunting Heart, is recruiting 10 elite members, prompting several high-level hunters to clamor for a spot. Zhu-Tong dismisses them as old flatterers trying to curry favor with Faction's powerful father. As Faction smugly welcomes the applicants, his aide points out a woman with long purple hair, Yi Ling, who is looking at the recruitment board. Zhu-Tong immediately recognizes her as the beautiful and powerful warlock from the Hunter assessment, known for casting instant explosion. He remembers her dealing most of the damage in a past Abyss mission and excitedly suggests they try to recruit her. Yi-King agrees, but Faction has already approached Yi Ling, trying to charm her. Faction invites Yi Ling to join Hunting Heart, saying a beautiful woman would add color to his group, while dismissing Scavenger's home as a rubbish option. Zhu-Tong watches in dismay, believing Hunting Heart has gotten to her first. However, Yi Ling coolly informs a surprised Faction that she has already made her decision. She walks away from a stunned Faction, who demands to know why she would join the Scavengers, calling it a waste of her talent on a garbage collection team with only E-level qualifications. Yi Ling approaches Yi-King, states that she likes the name Scavenger's home, and formally introduces herself as Yi Ling, a fire elemental sorcerer, asking to join his group. Yi-King shakes her hand and welcomes both her and Zhu-Tong to the team. As Yi Ling's stomach rumbles, Yi-King suggests they eat, and she enthusiastically orders one of everything from the menu, much to the shock of Yi-King and Zhu-Tong at the expense. In another room, Faction fumes over the rejection until a rugged, scarred man named Wu Ming walks past, telling them to move aside. A dazzling array of food arrives for Yi-King's group. The onlookers recognize the newcomer as Wu Ming, the infamous hunter who killed all his teammates, and whisper that he is a cursed person who brings ruin to all who associate with him. Wu Ming approaches Yi-King's table, stating he remembers they have an undecided battle to settle, and asks if Yi-King is interested in recruiting him. Wu Ming then asks if Yi-King dares to accept him, as a system window explains his curse, an unlucky person who significantly lowers the luck of all nearby creatures. Onlookers whisper that the curse causes worse equipment drops, and that's why Wu Ming never wears any gear. Yi-King, however, asks if his reduced luck makes dropped items even more like garbage. Wu Ming confirms this is the case. Yi-King's eyes light up as he exclaims that it's awesome. He insists Wu Ming join, calling him a special talent they are missing. He explains that for his forging process, the worse the quality of the initial equipment, the better the final result, meaning Wu Ming's curse actually increases his chances of getting the best quality items. Faction's men call Yi-King a lunatic for recruiting someone who lowers the whole team's luck, but remark that he truly lives up to the name, Scavenger. Wu Ming warns Yi-King that his team is destined to die in the abyss, but that he must die by Wu Ming's hand first. Yi-King firmly shakes his hand, accepting him into the group and declaring that he won't let the abyss take anyone. As Faction's group looks on, one member notes that despite his curse and 100% team wipeout record, Wu Ming looks very strong. Faction scoffs that Yi-King only recruits idiots and plague gods. Yi-King takes stock of his new team, Yi Ling, Wu Ming, and Zhu-Tong, knowing he still needs one more member to finalize the license. As the team waits, Zhu-Tong comments on their lack of popularity, which Yi Ling attributes to him and Wu Ming. Faction approaches to taunt Yi-King about the impending deadline, revealing he's already told the review team to reject any future applications from him due to personality flaws. He gloats that Yi-King will be restricted even as a normal hunter as punishment for his disrespect, and asks if he has any regrets. Yi-King calmly replies that his group already has a sufficient number of members. Wu Ming points out that they are still one person short, but Yi-King corrects him, stating they have 5 people. Just then, a cloaked woman appears, apologizing for being late and blaming Yi-King's hasty notification for her being trapped in the abyss. The woman, Liu Xingren, throws back her hood and declares that she's in. The crowd is stunned, recognizing her as a member of the prestigious Liu family, a sponsor of the World Guild. They wonder why such a figure would join a rubbish group, but it's explained that she's a known rebel who refused her family's resources. After Faction storms off with his team, refusing to wait for the Scavengers, a system notification confirms the successful establishment of Scavenger's home with all 5 members, granting them the ability to accept E-class commissions. Yi King immediately applies to follow Hunting Heart into the A-Class Abyss as their cleanup crew. Faction is enraged, questioning how an E-Class group can take on an A-Class mission. Yi King calmly explains the loophole. Their business scope is E-Class, but there is no limit on the Abyss level they can enter as auxiliary staff. The application is approved. Yi King cheerfully suggests they work together, but a furious faction tells him to get ready to pick up his trash. He vows to leave a pile of rubbish for Yi King, who mockingly agrees to obey the leader of Hunting Heart. Later, Zhu Tong asks why he's willingly acting like a slave, but Yi King explains that Scavenger status allows them to enter any level of Abyss without restrictions, a clear advantage. He reveals his true goal. Their cooperation with Hunting Heart was a coincidence, but their mission contains the key to the Black Tower. The team discusses the key, a ticket to a challenge that grants rewards like curing curses or even resurrection, with Liu Xingren noting that all who possess it, like her siblings, are among the strongest existences. Yi King outlines his plan to let Hunting Heart act as a vanguard while they search for the key's hidden location. When Liu Xingren asks if he planned for her to show up, he claims it was all a coincidence, earning a deadpan stare from his entire team. The group enters the A-Class Abyss, a vast, open desert under a real sky. Wu Ming explains the dangers of getting lost in such an open-world abyss without markers. Yi Ling and Liu Xingren are fully cloaked to block the sun's damaging rays. The group treks through the sand, with a member of Hunting Heart complaining about the long walk to the Oasis Fortress said to be at the abyss's center. Faction finds the lack of monsters suspicious for an A-Class zone. One of his men notices a flock of birds circling above, sensing they are about to attack. The creatures dive, revealing themselves to be harpies. As Faction's tank calls for everyone to hide behind him, another member yells at Yi King's team for not hiding, asking if they want to die. Yi King calmly replies that harpies aren't that dangerous, and that getting caught only reflects poor positioning. This enrages the man, who reminds them they are just auxiliary staff. The battle begins, and a Hunting Heart member is quickly snatched by a harpy screaming for help as he's lifted into the air. Yi Ling unleashes an explosion that downs the creature, and she remarks that she thought Hunting Heart's members were elites. The fallen hunter blames her for distracting him, but Yi King retorts that he is just a master at blaming others for his own mistakes. Another hunter tells his comrades to forget the fallen man and watch how easy positioning is, only to be targeted himself. Yi King easily dodges and kills the attacking harpy in a single slash. The hunter who mocked him dismisses it as luck, only to be decapitated by another harpy moments later. Yi King kicks the headless body, telling it to be quiet as the noise will attract more harpies. The battle continues, and Faction angrily orders that the useless ranger and warrior be kicked from the team after the mission is over. Yi King explains to his team that the monsters are prioritizing them because they are loud, which Liu Xingren notes makes the harpies her nemesis. The harpies suddenly flee not because of the hunters, but because the ground begins to shake violently. Wu Ming explains they were frightened by a more powerful opponent. A massive company of ogres appears over a sand dune. Faction immediately takes command, ordering his forces into formation. He tells his team to give the trash pickers a demonstration of their power as they charge into battle. Yi King watches from a distance, deciding to let Hunting Heart handle the ogres as they only need to collect the trash afterward. An ogre is deliberately thrown toward his group by Faction, who taunts him to get to work. Yi King examines the dropped loot, confirming it's a royal flush of rubbish, perfect for his needs, as a system message notes that the luck attribute has been significantly lowered. Meanwhile, Faction's team is bewildered by the terrible loot and their inability to land any critical hits. Yi King finds it strange that the monsters are not attacking with their full strength, realizing they can communicate and strategize. Suddenly, a second wave of ogres attacks Hunting Heart's back line from behind, causing chaos. Instead of turning back to help, Faction orders his troops to push forward and use a magical item to draw the monsters' aggro onto the garbage collectors. The ogres' aggro is reset, and they turn to charge at Yi King's team on the hill. Liu Xingren realizes they were deliberately lured over and prepares to fight, but Yi King stops her, explaining it's a trap and they should let Hunting Heart test the waters first. He declares he is enough to hold the rearguard and single-handedly engages the entire wave of ogres. Liu Xingren watches in awe, amazed at how much stronger and faster he's become in just a few days, his blade movements almost impossible to perceive. A member of Hunting Heart, seeing the ogres flee from Yi King's position, smugly remarks that the trash pickers are finally being useful by sacrificing themselves, only to see the ground behind Yi King littered with ogre corpses. Yi King notes that the monsters are intelligent, attacking weak targets and retreating from strong ones. Just as the initial ogres flee, a massive ogre warrior emerges from the dust and crushes Hunting Heart's main tank in a single blow. Faction's team is horrified, realizing this new group of ogre warriors is on a completely different level of difficulty. As Faction tries to reorganize, he learns the back line has been cut off, and they are now surrounded. From his vantage point, Yi King calmly concludes that the first wave of ogre raiders was just bait. A massive golden explosion erupts across the battlefield, sending a large, gray-skinned monster flying back as its body disintegrates. The man responsible, Faction, stands amidst the swirling energy, laughing boisterously as he dismisses the large monsters as nothing. He declares that in front of his titanic power, they are all garbage, just as a colossal, purple-skinned ogre with glowing red eyes looms behind him. Undeterred, Faction channels another golden blast, roaring for the beast to die as he meets its incoming punch with a blinding explosion of energy. He follows up with a direct punch to the ogre's face, but grits his teeth in surprise when the monster retaliates with a lightning-infused fist of its own. Faction is thrown back, shocked that the damned thing possesses so much strength. The ogre unleashes a beam of purple energy from its eyes, striking Faction and sending him crashing into the ground with enough force to create a crater surrounded by rock spikes. He lies defeated, groaning in pain, as his teammates cry out his name in alarm. The rest of his team charges forward, vowing to protect their leader as they engage the smaller monsters swarming the area. The tide turns against them when the slain monsters begin to glow with red energy, rising to their feet once more. A female fighter asks in horror why it can still move, and her teammate identifies it as necromancy magic, yelling for everyone to get away. The reanimated corpses explode violently, catching the team in the blast. Their healer cries out that he can't keep up with the damage. The team leader orders a full retreat, telling them to deploy a smoke screen to lose the monster's attention. Watching from a distance, a young man with black hair, Yi King, calmly observes the chaos. He identifies the magic as a necromancy spell that turns corpses into bombs and warns his own companions to steer clear of them. As a monster charges him, he simply narrows his eyes and says the word recycle. Instantly, the monster is enveloped in dark purple energy, bound by glowing shackles before it, and all the other corpses on the field are sucked into a swirling vortex around Yi King. With the battlefield cleared, his teammates praise his amazing ability. He tells them there's no time to explain and that they must clean up all the corpses before the shaman can reanimate them again. Just then, a healed Faction approaches, mockingly calling them a bunch of trash collectors and offering them a generous opportunity. Yi King coolly tells him to get on with it. Faction offers to write a glowing note in the A-level mission debrief about their contributions, which might even upgrade their group's rank. Yi King retorts that he's fine being a garbage collector and questions if Faction wouldn't just report his group's qualification again. Faction laughs it off and sincerely invites them to join his group, Hunting Heart, as cooperative partners. A flashback reveals Faction's true intentions. Just moments before, his own team was being overwhelmed by the exploding corpses. He and his strategist decided they didn't need to fight the boss monster head-on and could simply go around it. The strategist then slyly suggested they lead the stupid garbage guys to the impaired beast to use as a distraction. The strategist pointed out that with Faction's influential father, it wouldn't matter if Yi King's entire team died. Back in the present, Yi King's teammates see through the ruse. The green-haired boy warns that they just want to use them as cannon fodder, while the white-haired man points out that Hunting Heart was almost wiped out, making the offer an obvious trap. The silver-haired woman Zingren, however, sees it as a good opportunity for training. Despite the warnings, Yi King calmly accepts Faction's offer, announcing that they're in, much to the shock and dismay of his team. Faction roars with laughter, praising Yi King and declaring they will charge together. Yi King asks for a minute to have an internal meeting. His teammates immediately confront him, with Zingren angrily stating Faction wants to get rid of them and the green-haired boy, Zhu Tong, asking if he's really joining them. Yi King ignores their protests and hands Zhu Tong a legendary class shield, telling him to use it to save himself at a critical moment. He then turns to Zingren and asks about her healing abilities before officially designating her as the team's nanny, or healer, much to her chagrin. He lays out their real plan. Zingren will protect their backline, Zhu Tong and the purple-haired girl, Yi Ling. Yi Ling is tasked with using her instant-cast fire spells to incinerate any monsters that get too close, preventing them from becoming corpse bombs. The man with the greatsword, Wu Ming, simply states he won't die anyway. King then reveals their true objective: to eliminate the bosses, Ogma and Ogtella, on their own, without any help from Hunting Heart. As King's team rushes forward, Faction's group hangs back, with one member wondering if the garbage guys are stupid for charging in without any buffs. Faction orders his own team to move out, planning to advance once the other squad is inevitably eliminated. Standing alone before the horde, King yells for the assholes to come over here. The monsters, glowing with red rage, turn their attention to him, and several immediately explode as they get close. The massive ogre, Ogma, and its shaman rider, Ogtella, focus on him. Ogtella speaks in a monstrous tongue, which King initially dismisses as gibberish before ordering his system to analyze it. A notification confirms he now understands their language. Ogtella declares they are the Ogre clan, guardians of the valley, and all trespassers must die. King identifies the shaman's power as high-level mind control and deduces that killing it will neutralize the entire ogre force. As Ogma raises its giant cleaver, Zhutong hides behind his shield in terror, realizing one hit would kill him. King confirms his plan with Wuming. He will go for the beheading of the shaman, while Wuming cleans up the surrounding monsters. With a grin, King tells his team to listen well before they all charge into battle with renewed determination. Wuming vows not to leave a single one alive. Zingren promises to protect the back line. Yiling cackles about burning them all to ashes, and a nervous Zhutong clutches his shield, vowing to try his best. King leaps toward the main boss, telling Wuming he'll leave the smaller ones to him. The battle rages, but the team is quickly beset by more monsters bursting from the ground behind them. Wuming uses a chain ability to freeze them in time, while Yiling unleashes a barrage of fireballs, narrowly avoiding a monster's attack as Wuming yells at her to dodge. Two bicker, with Yiling reminding him they need to overkill the monsters to prevent explosions. As more monsters dig their way out of the ground, Yiling unleashes a massive firestorm, destroying them. Zingren congratulates them before telling them to stay behind her as she blocks the next wave. She uses her magic to freeze the approaching monsters solid, preventing them from exploding, and her teammates praise her might. Suddenly, she realizes King is missing. Elsewhere, King has stabbed Ogma through the eye, enraging it and triggering its rampage state. He deftly dodges the monster's empowered attacks, noting that increased power means nothing if it can't hit him. He gathers the ambient dark energy, calling out recycling return as he unleashes a massive blast of recycled monster parts back at Ogma. The explosion is seen by Faction's group in the distance, who laughingly assume King's team is dead. However, Ogma emerges from the smoke, grabs the shaman Ogtella from its shoulder, and eats it whole. King watches in surprise as Ogma begins to transform, pulsing with red energy. He realizes Ogtella wasn't a controller, but a limiter on Ogma's true power. The monster sheds its flesh, revealing its true skeletal form, wreathed in fiery energy. While the rest of the team regroups and tends to minor injuries, Wuming stands apart, revealing that his cursed nature means any scratch his teammates receive while near him would become a fatal blow. He decides to fight separately as a mercenary, charging them for each monster he kills. Meanwhile, King faces the transformed Ogma, finding his movements restricted by the shifting sands under its control. He uses gravity magic to take to the air and activates frenzy mode, becoming a blur of purple energy as he evades Ogma's attacks. He manages to land a perfect parry, but a system message informs him he still took 30% damage. Ogma slams him into the ground, inflicting him with an imprisoned debuff that disables his movement skills. Trapped, he activates Recycle to protect himself and heal before teleporting to safety. He reappears behind the beast and strikes its leg, inflicting a cut hamstring debuff that reduces its speed and lowers its health to 75%. Seeing this success, he decides to continue the strategy, but Ogma retaliates by activating Sand Trampling, a massive area of effect attack that sends skeletal remains erupting from the ground, forcing the entire team to scatter. After the attack, King discovers Ogma has a super recovery ability that restores it to full health if it isn't damaged for 3 seconds. Wuming suggests they retreat, but King refuses, determined to get the boss's reward now that he understands its mechanics. He explains their only hope is to have the melee fighters continuously juggle its aggro, while Yiling provides constant damage to prevent it from healing. Wuming asks for their chances, and King grimly estimates about 20%. Despite the low odds, the team agrees to his plan, believing in him and vowing not to retreat. Zingren reveals her healing can be combined with his own to offset the dangerous bleeding effect of his skills, giving him the confidence to use triple berserk, a risky move that could kill him. Acknowledging this is the real gamble, he declares he must become stronger. Yiling activates her flame form, boosting her damage at the cost of her health, and unleashes a storm of powerful fireballs. Zhu Tong protects the backline with his shield, while Yi King instructs Zingren to reinforce the ground with ice to slow the beast. She complies, freezing its feet in place. Ogma is bombarded by fire and held by ice, but it breaks free and unleashes a massive energy beam from its mouth. Zingren erects an ice wall, yelling in alarm as the powerful beam threatens to shatter her defense. The white-haired warrior, Zingren, struggles to maintain her ice barrier against the colossal bone monster, crying out that she can't hold on much longer. A system message flashes, indicating the monster's aggro has been shifted. The main character, wielding dual blades and surrounded by a faint purple aura, tells her to move aside. He crashes down in front of the beast, shattering the ground on impact. His bearded companion, Wuming, assures him that his back is covered and urges him to press the attack. Wreathed in dark purple energy, the main character taunts the monster, demanding its attention. He unleashes a blindingly fast series of slashes, enveloping the creature in a storm of purple energy. The monster, Ogma, swings a massive bone arm in retaliation. A system message appears over its partially frozen body, showing its freezing cumulative value has reached 15%, prompting it to roar for a retreat. The main character shouts for Yiling to attack now, and she confirms the order from above. The purple-haired mage unleashes a series of massive fireballs that detonate in a colossal explosion, engulfing the battlefield in flames. The blast sends Ogma reeling as shadowy tendrils erupt from the ground to strike it repeatedly, with damage counters flashing across its body. The main character follows up with a powerful dual-bladed strike that creates a golden flash of energy upon impact. Wuming congratulates him on the well-executed attack. The main character notes that by keeping the damage interval within 2 seconds, they've successfully prevented Ogma from activating its super recovery skill, making its defeat only a matter of time. He rallies the team, ordering everyone to continue attacking. Wuming bellows his agreement while Zingren declares she will restrict the monster's movements. High above, Yiling floats in the air, complaining about the noise and calling it annoying. Suddenly, a system message alerts her that Ogma's aggro has shifted to her. The monster hurls a massive, spinning bone axe directly at her. The main character shouts a warning to Zingren, telling her to block the incoming projectile. Zingren erects an ice shield but screams that she can't stop it. A quick flashback shows the main character outlining the strategy. He, Wuming, and Zingren would rotate tanking duties, while Yiling provided consistent damage, and Zhu Tong's only job was to stay alive. Zhu Tong had asked what his role was, prompting another teammate to ask the main character about their odds of success, which he estimated to be a mere 20%. Yiling had scoffed at the low probability of victory, wondering why they didn't just join the deserters instead of risking their lives. Back in the present, the axe shatters Zingren's shield and continues towards Yiling, but Zhu Tong intercepts it, bracing himself and yelling for the axe to halt. A flashback begins, revealing Zhu Tong's inner turmoil in a dark room. He laments that his only goal was to make money to pursue his unattainable dream of becoming a celebrity. He sees himself as unworthy, just a piece of trash with no talent for singing. In his memory, a shadowy figure snatches the microphone from his hand, telling him he isn't cut out for this, a statement Zhu Tong sorrowfully agrees with. The figure lectures him on the importance of the spotlight, both on stage and on the battlefield, asking if he understands what a spotlight moment is. Zhu Tong recalls hearing the term, a moment reserved for true stars and heroes. He had always wondered what the spotlight truly illuminated, whether it was talent, dreams, or courage, or if it was just an enlarged shadow as monstrous red figures swirled around him, their voices calling him trash. Zhu Tong admits to himself that he never possessed the talent to captivate an audience, yet he refuses to accept it. Standing in a single beam of light, he resolves that he is unwilling to watch others shine from the sidelines. He declares his desire to get close to the center of the stage, to touch the spotlight just once, even for a moment, ignoring the taunting voices of the shadows calling him garbage. He decides that while he may never be a star on a musical stage, he can be a real protagonist on the battlefield, shouting that this is the spotlight moment that belongs only to him. The axe strikes him with devastating force, carving a massive crater in the ground. The main character screams Zhu Tong's name in anguish. He immediately activates Gravity Vortex, pulling the surrounding debris into a swirling mass of purple energy, before unleashing a threefold berserk. Now glowing with intense power, he slams his attack into Ogma with furious force. Zingren observes the ground, realizing it's not crystal but glass formed from the superheated sand. a testament to the main character's immense power. He roars at Ogma, promising to crush its bones to dust one by one. He becomes a whirlwind of motion, dodging Ogma's clumsy swings while landing a relentless flurry of devastating attacks. Zingran watches in awe, praising his incredible performance. The onslaught continues as damage counters tick down rapidly, 40% then 30%. The damage climbs higher, hitting 20% and then 10%. The main character gathers a massive sphere of swirling purple energy, commanding Ogma to be completely crushed into dust. He slams the energy sphere into the monster, obliterating it as its health drops to 0%. After the battle, he rushes to Zhu Tong's side and asks about his condition. Zingran explains that the invincibility effect from his shield saved him, but her healing is only strong enough to barely keep him alive. The main character blames himself for allowing Zhu Tong to take such a foolish risk. Zhu Tong weakly whispers that he's glad he could help, adding that he finally got to stand at the center of the stage. The main character makes a decision, ordering Zingran, Wuming, and Yahello to take Zhu Tong and return to the gate immediately, declaring that he will proceed into the abyss alone. A system message informs him he has acquired the bone meal amulet. He realizes that in his pursuit of strength, he has lost something important. He thinks of Zhu Tong's sacrifice and how he couldn't even offer him words of encouragement, questioning his own hesitation. Was it for Zhu Tong's safety or his own? System messages show him recycling ogre corpses as he walks. He concludes that the abyss shows no mercy, and therefore he cannot offer false words of hope. He steps through a swirling purple portal, continuing his journey alone. He finds the remains of scattered monsters, deducing that the Hunting Heart team, despite avoiding a direct confrontation with Ogma, still had to fight their way through. Seeing no bodies from their team, he concludes their progress was smooth, and a system message confirms he has used a smoke bomb. He figures they use stealth to bypass enemies and claim the final prize. Activating his observation eye, his vision sharpens. He spots several high-level ogre berserkers, acknowledging their deadly attack power but declaring he has no intention of avoiding them. He leaps down from a cliff into a canyon below, shouting to draw the monster's attention. He quickly dispatches an ogre with a single fluid strike. Meanwhile, Hunting Heart team stands before a massive stone door at the abyss's end. Their leader, a large man with white braided hair, demands to know why the door won't open when the treasure should be inside. One of his subordinates explains that a hint indicates they need the Guardian's amulet to proceed. The leader rages, yelling that he didn't see any amulet on their way there. The subordinate gently reminds him that since they avoided all fights, they naturally wouldn't have found one. He suggests the amulet is likely held by the Ogma patrolling outside the canyon. The leader fumes, enraged at the thought of having to go back and fight the boss they had sent the garbage team to distract. He asks about their supply of smoke bombs, only to be told they've used them all. Cursing his luck and blaming the cursed guy, his tirade is cut short as the main character appears behind them, calmly stating that the amulet they seek is in his hand. The leader is stunned that the scavenger is still alive. The main character retorts that, thanks to him, he is doing very well. The leader mockingly assumes he abandoned his own team to survive, but the main character tells him not to be the pot calling the kettle black, explaining that he had his team retreat for their own safety. He holds up the glowing amulet, its energy pulsating in his hand. He places the amulet into an indentation on the door, causing it to activate and reveal a swirling purple portal. As they step inside, the leader asks if he stole the amulet, and his subordinate mentions the Scavenger class's legendary stealing skill. The leader scoffs at the notion of a trash collector having such an ability. The main character curtly tells them he killed Ogma and some other nuisances. The leader is incredulous, unable to believe he single-handedly defeated a monster their entire party couldn't handle. The main character simply asks if he'd like to test that claim. The leader backs down, admitting he's impressive and proposing a cooperative relationship, suggesting that while the Scavenger calls the shots in the abyss, he'll need the leader's connections outside to raise his group's ranking. He declares that they will split the final treasure based on their numbers, a 5-to-1 split in favor of the hunter team. As he speaks, one of his men is instantly killed by a hidden trap. The main character coldly corrects him, stating that it is now a 4-to-1 split. The panicked leader shouts for everyone to spread out and watch for traps. One of the hunters sighs in relief, believing the danger has passed. The leader comments on how frightening the traps were, but the main character's observation eye reveals the entire chamber is still covered in countless hidden mechanisms, his vision filled with trap-spotted alerts. He leaps forward, deliberately activating the traps and triggering a massive volley of projectiles from the walls. The leader shouts in panic as the main character tells them to give it to him. He unleashes a powerful shockwave of purple energy that obliterates every trap in the room simultaneously. He calmly informs the dumbfounded hunters that the way is now clear. The leader stares in disbelief, wondering aloud if all of his attributes are strength, while another hunter mutters that the Scavenger is a monster. A subordinate whispers to the leader that they should be careful, as they might need his help again. The leader dismisses the warning, boasting that it's 4 of them against 1 man, only for the subordinate to remind him that he is part of the 4. The leader strides forward, mockingly asking his brother why he has stopped, but then he too freezes in shock. Before them lies a vast chamber, its floor an ocean of shimmering gold coins and crystals. The hunters immediately lose their composure and dive into the treasure. One marvels at the purity of the crystals, while another celebrates that they'll never have to collect trash again. The leader laughs triumphantly, declaring them rich and ordering his men to fill their bags. Amidst the celebration, the main character remains still, sensing that something is wrong. His suspicion is confirmed by a system alert. Discovered a dragon. The system elaborates that dragons are exceedingly rare creatures found only in S-level abysses, with fewer than 5 confirmed sightings worldwide. From the mountain of gold, 2 large, curved golden horns emerge. A humanoid figure with pink hair, horns, and black wings rises from the treasure, yawning that someone has disturbed her sleep. The leader stammers, shocked to see a woman. The dragon lady addresses them as lowly beings, instructing them to put down their equipment and leave respectfully, adding that she will pretend she never saw them. The leader is baffled, questioning if a demon beast can actually speak human language. The dragon lady yawns again, asking why they haven't left yet. She complains that their greed makes the very air reek of rot, her eyes then fixing on the main character, questioning how someone in such rags dares to enter her territory. The main character glares back as she accuses him of dirtying her golden floor. The leader, recovering his bravado, remarks on the rarity of a beautiful humanoid monster and muses about capturing her for a compendium. His subordinate warns that she seems extraordinarily powerful, possibly a boss. The leader dismisses the concern, confident that their group of 5 can handle a single, good-looking monster, and notes that her aggression seems focused on the Scavenger, providing them with a perfect opportunity for a sneak attack. The hunters charge, but the dragon effortlessly conjures a barrier of magical rings that sends them flying back. The leader shouts in shock as the magical energy blasts across the room, engulfing the main character as well. The dragon lady floats before the main character, demanding an offering of gold, crystals, or any other shiny things he might have. The leader exclaims in disbelief that the monster is a greedy ghost. She hovers inches from the Scavenger's face. The main character clutches a small, worn object in his hand, warning her not to touch his stuff. She dismisses it as junk, finding his possessiveness adorable. Meanwhile, the main character thinks to himself that every monster has a weakness, and he activates his observation eye to find hers. The dragon's eyes glow menacingly as she senses his probing technique, declaring that his eyes shall become her offerings. As she reaches for his face, he erupts with power, activating his double frenzy skill. He immediately escalates to triple frenzy, unleashing a massive explosion of purple energy that shakes the entire chamber. The dragon lady casually blocks the immense blast with a single hand. The terrified leader realizes her power is unmeasurable, calling the Scavenger a true god for even attempting to fight her. He tells his men that this being is beyond their ability to catalog and yells for them to grab what they can and retreat. His subordinate points out the absurdity of trying to move the massive pile of treasure, but the leader just screams at him to hurry. In response, a pillar of golden light erupts from the treasure pile, incinerating much of the gold in an instant. The leader curses his misfortune, lamenting that they should have just taken what they could carry and fled. He snatches a single large crystal, declaring it will be enough. He is immediately sent flying by a powerful shockwave. The dragon transforms into a colossal, shadowy version of herself, her voice booming as she asks how he dares to steal her secret treasure, mockingly calling him brave. A swirling purple aura surrounds the king as he stands before a massive shadowy figure whose feet tower over him. He is confronted by Novelis, a woman with pink hair, black wings, and horns, who remarks that the dragon's secret treasure is a bit too hot to handle. An ally of the king's musters a ball of blue energy before letting out a fierce cry and swinging a glowing blue axe. The axe strikes Novelis in a brilliant flash of light, sending debris flying as she is knocked backward. She recovers with a smirk, calling the attack a shame. Yi King, now looking ragged, appears and dismisses it as a sneak attack worse than garbage. Novelis taunts him, asking if she needs to demonstrate true regeneration as a green aura surrounds her body, healing her wounds instantly. A similar green aura envelops King as he begins to heal himself, but Novelis interrupts, saying, however, before lunging forward and striking him with a powerful kick. The blow sends him crashing into the ground with a massive explosion that kicks up a large cloud of dust and debris. As the smoke clears, King stands once more. Novelis comments that while she dislikes maggots licking gold coins, she much prefers a wild dog capable of digging a crown out of rotting flesh, and she asks him what he smells. King's red eye glows as he thinks of the Black Tower key, while Novelis's yellow eye glows as she thinks of one of his collectibles. He suddenly grabs her arm, and she angrily calls him an insolent scavenger for coveting her treasure, reminding him that she is a dragon. He calmly tells her to give him the Black Tower key in exchange for him leaving her treasury alone, but she scoffs, asking why a proud dragon should listen to a wild dog's request. He replies that he has a reason she cannot refuse, and a swirling vortex of dark purple energy erupts around him as he announces the commencement of retrieval. The purple energy engulfs Novelis, who desperately screams for him to stop. She shrieks that even if he kills her, he cannot stop the void's devouring power, calling him a bastard. He coldly gives her an ultimatum. Watch her treasures, hoarded for 10,000 years, turn into actual garbage. As her precious items are sucked into the void, she cries out in agony and finally concedes. Novelis continues to yell at the lowly scavenging cur to stop, as her treasures are consumed by the purple void. A system notification confirms the successful retrieval of a permafrost crystal coffin, which Novelis wails was a gift for her dragon offspring. Another item, the undying fire seed, is reported to have no retrieval value as it has already been extinguished, and her ancient scrolls are also devoured, causing her to scream in despair. She begs him not to touch the sapphire-inlaid boxes containing her baby teeth or the spear tasseled with her own shed dragon scales. Frantically, she demands he spit her treasures back out. He offers to exchange them for the Black Tower key, holding up the glowing blue reverse scale of the first Snow Dragon King and threatening to let it turn to garbage. She instantly capitulates, saying she will give him the stupid key and anything else he wants. She then leads him into a vast, dusty hall filled with towering bookshelves, explaining it is the dragon's treasury of knowledge and that no guests have visited in 300 years. Looking around the dilapidated library, Novelis comments that they should have tidied up a century ago. She invites him to sit among the lit candles and ancient scrolls, but he scoffs at the fire hazard and declines. She then presents him with the Black Tower key he demanded. As he reaches for it, she snatches it back, telling him not to think he can take it so easily after he devoured half her treasures, insisting he should give a little something back. Standing on a balcony overlooking a golden city, King questions her words, reminding her that she called him a scavenging wild dog covered in trash and asking where he would find any treasure to give her. Novelis replies that her nose is very sensitive, and she can smell a legendary scent hidden deep within his garbage-like possessions. She proposes a deal, one piece of divine equipment for the Black Tower key, with bonus services included if he's quick about it. He calls her a money grubber and asks what happens if he refuses. She confidently states she knows he can easily produce 100 pieces of divine equipment. He retorts that if he could travel through otherworld gates like her, he wouldn't care for her trinkets, but unfortunately he cannot. With a sigh, he tosses a purple orb at her, telling her to take it all. Novelis catches it, asking if he's satisfied, and marvels at the divine equipment she's never seen before. As King walks away, a red aura envelops him, and a notification appears. Curse of the Death Shadow, all attributes reduced to 1, skills disabled, and an instant death effect in 5 days. He cries out in shock as Novelis recognizes the cursed item, musing on his impressive talent for rummaging through trash. He furiously yells that he wanted the key, not to be tricked with a curse. Novelis calmly states she gave him the item as promised, and its condition is not her problem. King laments that deals with dragons never end well. She taunts him, saying her special services are reserved for those who bring her real treasures. He grabs her by the horns, and she yelps in pain, warning him that they are connected to her reverse scale nerve. He threatens to reduce her entire library to nothingness if she doesn't help him. She tells him to find an otherworld gate containing the final codex, which can rewrite the laws of death and dispel his curse. He demands more clues, but she claims that is all she can provide. Furious, he points out he can't fight monsters while under her curse's debuff and screams in pain. She smirks, telling him that while ordinary dragons can't dispel the curse, she is Novelis, and she can suppress its effects for 500 pieces of divine equipment. He threatens to ransack her hoard, but she calmly offers an installment plan, saying she can be flexible for people she favors. Novelise proposes he first hand over the last 100 pieces of divine equipment in his stash, leaving him with a debt of 400. He accuses her of outright robbery but furiously complies, throwing a shower of items at her and telling her to take them all. She laughs maniacally as he realizes he's been played again. He tells her to stop her tricks, but she grabs him, saying she can't let him go so easily while he owes her. Novelise declares her intent to be responsible for the wild dog to the very end, placing a hand on his forehead. He asks what she's done as his vision blurs, and he shouts in alarm. He finds himself in a dark, columned chamber identified as the Obsidian Hall, the curse's materialized domain. He flexes his hands, realizing with relief that his vision and senses have returned. A shadowy figure sits on a throne, identified by a notification as King, demon. A voice echoes that lowly humans can never defeat powerful demons, and the only way to break the curse is to fight himself. A red system window confirms his demonic double is a transcendent form with stats boosted by 30%. The demon states that it possesses all of his stats and skills, and is even stronger within the cursed domain. King realizes his double also has a transcendent form, and the demon taunts that it is an existence he cannot possibly defeat. The demon lunges with blinding speed, forcing King to parry frantically, shocked by its velocity. They engage in a furious clash of blades, sparks flying with each impact. King finds himself constantly on the defensive, unable to gain an advantage as his double anticipates his every move. The demon unleashes a skill called Soul Snatch, causing King to stagger. He feels the scales of power tipping as the demon explains that its attacks steal his attributes, tearing his soul with every strike. The demon tells him to keep fighting, as it will slowly consume his spirit until it has completely become him. They continue their high-speed duel, blades clashing relentlessly. A notification confirms an attribute drain as the demon's sword strikes home. The demon declares his soul interesting, and another notification announces it has consumed 20 points to reforge the junk twin swords. It comments that his will to survive is strong enough to shake the scales of victory. The demon mocks him, stating that in its domain, effort is futile, as notifications rapidly pop up showing it consuming his points and reforging the swords repeatedly. Finally, a message appears. Retrieval failed, insufficient materials. King shouts in disbelief. As a memory of Novelise offering an installment plan flashes in his mind, he wonders if this is all a setup. The demon taunts him, asking if he feels powerless against an ever-stronger version of himself. It commands him to kneel, worship, and submit, promising to preserve a small memory of him after it devours him. The demon threatens to erase his memories, take his place, destroy his family, and torture everyone he cares about. Memories of his promises to protect his loved ones and survive the abyss flood King's mind. He recalls vowing to his sister that he would protect her from all danger. The demon finds this interesting and amends its offer, saying it will preserve a sliver of his consciousness so he can watch what happens. King berates himself for being useless and pathetically weak, having only accelerated the curse he meant to break. The demon encourages this despair, telling him to become it and give up everything he cherishes so it can completely replace his existence. The demon tells him this is good and to give up everything, but Novelise's voice reminds him of his 400 artifact debt. A fiery aura erupts from the demon, who calls him a poor wild dog with nothing left to lose. As the demon lunges to replace him, King catches its blade with his bare hand, shocking it. He calmly states that its sword is his sword, and its power is his power. The demon furiously demands to know why he's spouting nonsense and isn't dead yet. King declares that he will not submit to anyone, nor will he become the demon, because only he can replace others. As Novelise's promise to take responsibility echoes, a golden, draconic eye opens within King, stunning his demonic self. A shadowy dragon form bursts from his back as he roars, activating triple dragon blood frenzy. He screams that it doesn't matter if he's torn apart, he will devour his opponent. The demon stares in shock, wondering which of them is the true demon. King bites down on the demon's sword, shattering it with his teeth. The demon shrieks that no one can defy it in its domain, but King mocks it, asking so what if it took his weapon when he possesses all its power. The demon looks on in horror as King unleashes a point-blank great blaze, engulfing it in a massive explosion. The demon screams in agony, demanding to know why King isn't dead yet before melting into a shadowy puddle. It reforms from the puddle, convinced he must be dead, only to see King emerge from the flames, now glowing with a golden aura. They clash again in a blur of motion. King summons a shield with his retrieval skill, blocking a blow and shouting to retrieve everything. The demon recoils, yelling for him to stay away, incredulous that he can trade blows and even take back stats from its domain. A hulking, armored demon with glowing red eyes stands imposingly in the hall. Yi King decides weapons will only slow him down and shatters the demon's new sword with a single punch. He launches a purple energy orb at the demon, who prepares to counter. As the orb hits the ground with a massive shockwave, Yi King uses his retrieval ability on the demon's horns. He lands gracefully as the demon is thrown to the ground. Suddenly, purple chains erupt from the floor, binding the demon in a dragon-trapping formation that absorbs its power. Yi King explains that the more it struggles, the stronger the seal becomes, because he is different from other dragons. He tells it to listen as he declares that his name is Yi King. The demon shatters its armor, its muscular form breaking free as it roars that it is king. Yi King's purple energy swirls around it, but a brilliant golden light erupts from the demon as it begins to absorb his power in a violent clash. The golden energy explodes outward, blasting Yi King into a fiery crater. The demon, now a being of pure golden energy, proclaims that all of Yi King's power is now its own. Back in the library, Novelis watches a projection of the battle, seeing the golden energy form a seal around Yi King's body. She murmurs that the ritual failed, as expected, and considers that if he turns into a shadow demon, they will just have to kill him. Suddenly, a hand claps her on the shoulder, startling her. It is Yi King, who asks if he is back from the dead, before stating calmly that the ritual is complete and all his power has returned. The red-haired demon Novelis asked Yi King if he was back, excitedly questioning him about the deal he made with the shadow demon and what price he paid, even telling him to bark for her as proof he was himself. She speculated that he was either possessed or had been replaced, but Yi King calmly stated that he ate the creature. Stunned, Novelis questioned if it was even possible to eat a demon, but Yi King cut her off, stating he had figured out her tricks and that she was a liar. He accused her of setting up the ritual not to break his curse, but to free the shadow demon so it could possess his body, after which she would have dealt with him herself. Novelis conceded that his assessment wasn't entirely correct, explaining that the demon's domain would have created a transcendent copy of him, an opponent even she wasn't confident in defeating. She had bet on his unique, contradictory constitution to give him a slim chance of victory, and if he had lost, she would have simply killed the possessed version of him herself. She lamented that with the demon gone, his death curse was now incurable, dismissing his question about the final codex by stating it required a deal with the now non-existent demon. Meanwhile, outside the Abyss entrance, guards waited anxiously, worried about the fate of Favi, the Heartseeker's leader, knowing they would be in deep trouble if anything happened to the guild master's son. Back inside the Abyss, among scattered bodies, a figure emerged from a swirling portal. It was Yi King, carrying an injured and unconscious Zingren. The guards outside were relieved to see he was alive. Zingren stirred in his arms, apologizing for her recklessness, but revealing she had successfully retrieved the key they needed. Yi King called her an idiot, reminding her that her sister was waiting and he didn't need her to take such risks. Suddenly, he cast a time stagnation spell, and Novelis materialized beside him, taking a deep breath of fresh air. He told her not to appear like this, but she ignored him, complaining about the smell of a nearby necklace and asking if Zingren was his close partner. She demanded he change her back, not wanting to get into trouble outside the Abyss. Yi King explained that she was merely a projection in his left eye, as her physical body remained in King's Canyon, a revelation that made him realize how much mana this form consumed. When he asked what level she was, she playfully guessed at astronomical numbers, but he flatly stated he was only level 1. Novelis was shocked by his weakness, but he retorted that he was still the one who defeated a shadow demon. She told him that as the new shadow demon, he should be able to take a piece of her with him. He demanded the key and told her he wanted nothing more to do with her, but she leaned in close, revealing that his eyes had become dragon sight pupils, permanently linked to her own through a pact of the dragon's eye, sharing their vision. She then dared him to use his prying technique to look at her again. Dark energy swirled around him as his eyes glowed red, moving against his will to focus on her demonic form. Novelis appeared before him in a haze of red energy, admiring her own sexy figure. She explained that his observation skill was now upgraded, and she could interpret information for him using a dragon's knowledge, though her services weren't free, offering an opening special on appraising a divine artifact. When he angrily told her off, she simply laughed. As Novelis disappeared, Zingren apologized for failing to protect him, but Yi King, looking at the key, assured her he wasn't talking about her. Elsewhere, the traumatized Heartseeker captain, Faction, told his subordinate that he had made a mistake, putting everyone in danger, his mind a blur of a golden light from a treasure vault. He couldn't remember anything clearly except that the vault was filled with gold and sand, and that the strong Scavenger, King, had promised to split the treasure 50-50, a phrase he repeated with mad laughter. As King walked by, Novelis asked him why he didn't kill Faction to protect her secret. King explained that he had used the Shadow Demon's power to edit Faction's memories, turning him into a useful false witness. At the hospital, a system message informed King his luck was too low to enter, but he found his way to the ICU where Zhu Tong lay gravely injured. His teammate explained that Zhu Tong's wounds were contaminated by the abyss and couldn't be healed outside of it, and regulations forbade them from re-entering without a lengthy approval process. A dangerous situation given their team's suspicious survival after the Heartseekers were wiped out. Seeing no other option, King produced a glowing blue potion, which his teammate recognized as a super recovery potion. He explained it was a legendary-grade item reinforced with dragon saliva, which could enhance one's physique. When asked where he got it, he casually said he found it in a junk pile. He had Novelis enhance it further by spitting into it, creating the dragon's mouthwash, a potion with unpredictable, chaotic side effects. He worried about giving it to Zhu Tong, but the injured man, coughing violently, declared he had already died once and would drink it even if it was poison, desperate for another chance to become stronger. King took the recovered Zhu Tong to a training ground where the potion had completely healed him. King explained that true strength in the abyss came not just from stats, but from thought and consciousness, as high-tier monsters had mechanisms that brute force couldn't overcome. He then began a sparring session, easily disarming Zhu Tong despite suppressing his own attributes. He pressed a dagger to Zhu Tong's throat and ordered him to fight with the intent to kill, explaining that without a murderous mindset, he would be the one who died. Zhu Tong was terrified by his big brother's demonic aura and found himself completely outmatched, his hesitation leading to him being disarmed again and again. Defeated, Zhu Tong begged to drink more of the potion, willing to accept any side effects for more power. King asked him why he was so desperate to get stronger. Zhu Tong admitted he wanted to stop being ridiculed and become a protagonist, to be an indomitable powerhouse recognized by all. King warned him that obsession with power turns people into monsters, and that he didn't want Zhu Tong to lose himself. The true reason to get stronger, he explained, was simply to live a good life. Understanding, Zhu Tong handed the potion back, declaring he was strong enough to walk his own path. He asked for one more round, his mindset now focused on caution and survival. Impressed, King agreed. Just then, a system notification revealed the potion's effect on Zhu Tong was nullified, meaning he had essentially just drunk water. Yet, as he coughed, he suddenly felt a surge of energy. Another notification explained that his bard's anecdotal knowledge skill had given him 1 experience point for trying an unknown item, which was just enough to level him up. King mused that this ineffective result was a miracle in its own way, a human miracle that a shut-in dragon like Novelis couldn't possibly understand. Later, at the World Guild headquarters, King was confronted by a thug named Lang Xiaofeng, who accused him of scamming him out of 200 million for a worthless iron ring. King nonchalantly offered to buy the ring back for the same price. Unaware of its true nature, Lang Xiaofeng mockingly agreed and completed the transaction. But as King took the ring, Novelis used her true name liberation power to reveal its real form, the legendary Ring of the Flame Dragon's Breath. Seeing the transformation, Lang Xiaofeng realized his mistake and furiously demanded it back, his body erupting in a demonic aura as he prepared to rob King by force. King sighed that some people don't listen to reason and effortlessly defeated him with a single blast of dark energy. Just as Lang Xiaofeng's men were about to flee, they were stopped by their guild leader, the heavily armored Lei Yushin. Lei Yushin recognized the ring's immense value and offered to buy it for 500 million, while also attempting to recruit King into his guild, Tatus. King flatly refused, stating his guild members were like family and that Tatus wasn't worthy of a single one of them. Enraged by the rejection, Lei Yushin revealed that he was now the acting leader of the Heartseekers and planned to use the guildmaster's grief over his son to destroy the Scavenger house. He then changed his tune, offering a new deal concerning the upcoming final festival and a sealed abyss that only he could reopen. Back with his team, King explained that he had no choice but to accept the joint mission, for which he could only bring 2 members. With Wu Ming being undead and Zhu Tong away training, his only options were the Ice Knight Liu Xingren and the Fire Mage Yi Ling. This prompted a tantrum from his sister, Zhu, who screamed that she wouldn't allow him to go on a mission alone with two other girls, while Novelis teased him relentlessly. Elsewhere, Yiling sat drinking alone, coldly telling a pair of thugs who were harassing her to piss off. A fiery explosion erupts, and a woman screams that she is burning. A purple-haired woman stands amidst golden flames, her eyes glowing as she declares that all the pieces of trash can just die. The first woman, clutching her arm, begs her to stop and apologizes, saying her sister didn't mean it. The fiery woman looks on furiously, vowing that she will never let their filthy hands touch a single hair on her sister's head. She then calms, telling her sister that this is her own choice and that they were always one and the same. With a determined gaze, she promises to one day return this body to her sister, Lingyi, no matter the cost. The scene shifts to a desolate urban landscape where several hunter guilds have gathered. Windchaser Yuijian Bai of the Celestial Light Guild mockingly asks if the number 3 guild, Knight's Cry, thinks they can challenge the number 2. Undertaker Sylves, the leader of Knight's Cry, sneers back, offering to cut off Yuijian Bai's tongue to save him some embarrassment. Yi King, observing from a distance, recognizes the twin spines from the phantom fortress abyss at Sylves's waist, pondering if Knight's Cry has already conquered it. Yuijian Bai summons his flaming sword, the legendary oath of sacred judgment, as his underling shouts that celestial light surpassed Knight's Cry long ago. An observer notes that Yuijian Bai's gear must be worth over $1 billion, a luxury only someone with family backing could afford, just before the two guilds' subordinates clash. A cloaked figure comments that this squabbling is all the second-rate guilds will ever amount to. A large, green-haired warrior named Lei steps forward, stating that at least they know their place and who the real top dog is. He explains that the S-rank anomaly requires 4 guilds to send their 3 strongest elites each, and smugly adds that the second-rate guilds wouldn't even be participating if not for the World Guild's requirements. A member of Knight's Cry asks if he means they are just there for show. Lei reveals that he applied to the Council of Elders for a joint hunt program, where their combat data will be recorded by Abyss technology, effectively making them guinea pigs. He then dangles the prospect of S-rank qualification as a reward for completing the hunt, a prize Knight's Cry desperately needs after being stuck at an A rating for 3 years. Sylves agrees to the deal, as does a reluctant Yuijian Bai, who warns Tatus not to manipulate the data. Lei reassures them and then introduces another guest, a lone man with mismatched gear who is immediately labeled a jinx. This man is identified as Fa Xiang, the sole survivor of the Heartseeker's last mission, who supposedly went crazy after his teammates died. Sylves mockingly greets the famous Scavenger house, surprised they showed up, while another hunter scoffs at junk collectors participating in an S-rank quest. A white-haired man, Liu Xingren, steps forward, asking if there's a problem. Yuijian Bai recognizes him, and Liu Xingren retorts by pointing out that Yuijian Bai's stutter hasn't improved. Yuijian Bai threatens him, but Liu Xingren dismisses him as a cast-off dog of the Liu family, mocking his fall from grace. Liu Xingren insists this is the path he chose for himself, but Yuijian Bai enrages him by repeatedly calling him a stutterer. Liu Xingren then taunts Yuijian Bai about their family's failed marriage alliance, calling him trash. Laughing maniacally, Yuijian Bai attacks, vowing to spill Liu Xingren's blood. His strike is effortlessly stopped by Yi King, who catches the blade between his fingers. Yi King calmly remarks that it's a good sword, but the man wielding it is a piece of shit. The divine sword shatters into countless fragments. Yuijian Bai screams in anguish, demanding to know what Yi King did to his most beloved weapon, but Yi King calmly calls it a small accident. Lei Yushin intervenes, reminding Yi King of the mess he's made with the powerful Yu family, but Yi King simply says he will compensate him. He then summons a glowing grid of cards, each displaying a powerful divine weapon, and tells Yuijian Bai to take his pick. The display of treasures stuns everyone, and a small dragon creature complains about Yi King showing its treasury to just anyone. Yi King corrects it, saying it's his pocket, but the dragon insists his pocket is part of its treasury and tries to brand the items. Staring at the weapons, Yuijian Bai realizes his own sword was just scrap metal in comparison. Yi King's companion notes that Yi King's specialty is finding the true value in what others see as junk. Yi King confirms to his companion that he was serious at the auction and wasn't scamming him. Yuijian Bai chooses a new sword, and Lei Yushin approaches Yi King, laughing about the strategic value of a steady supply of divine equipment. He delivers a veiled threat, saying he can't allow someone with so many artifacts to cooperate with other guilds, then makes an offer to buy all of Yi King's equipment. Lei also offers to get Yi King into the abyss he desires, then smoothly pivots to chastise Yuijian Bai for being rude to his honored guest. Yuijian Bai reluctantly backs down and takes a new sword. With that settled, Lei announces it's time to decide on loot distribution, proposing they use the World Guild's traditional dice roll. The dragon creature explains that the dice of fate possess the power of law, which governs everything from weapon grades to monster abilities and the causality of events within the abyss. It then reveals to Yi King that the dice are loaded, and only he can see the truth with his dragon's eye. A humble throw will always be lower than an arrogant throw. Lei presents the dice, claiming they will ensure fairness. Yi King's appraisal confirms they are a genuine treasure, and when asked for his opinion, he agrees that it's very fair. The narrative then flashes back to the history of the Abyss, once known as Ashdown, which was destroyed when a gate opened a decade ago, causing its 100,000 residents to vanish. The first Tatus rescue squad found the area enveloped in a thick fog, the air filled with the ash of countless lives, and realized the townspeople had become twisted, vengeful spirits. The squad was tormented by inhuman screams and, becoming lost, split into 4 teams to explore. One team, led by a man named Raven, heard the sound of bells and discovered a decaying Gothic cathedral. Inside, on an altar, they found the key of the gate, an artifact made of 7 human finger bones. As Raven reached for it, a shapeless, terrifying mass of screaming faces materialized, causing his teammates to collapse and die gruesomely. Raven snatched the key and fled in pure terror. He ran until he found a marker he'd left behind, but his teammates never returned. The key then grew hot and, like a compass, pointed him toward the Abyss Gate's exit. The moment he escaped, the gate slammed shut behind him. Back in the present, Lei holds that same mysterious skeleton key, announcing their plan to open the gate once more. The teams go over their roles. Sylve states his assassins specialize in sneak attacks and won't be charging in first. Yuijian Bai introduces his companions as a sword polisher and sword keeper, which Yi King clarifies are actually an enchanter and a backpacker. Yi King introduces his own team, Liu Xingren, an ice knight for the front line, and Yi Ling, a fire warlock for damage, while calling himself an all-rounder. A member of Tatus's team mentions bringing 1,500 potions, much to the annoyance of his wolf shapeshifter companion, who claims their boss never needs them. The shapeshifter boasts that their team is top tier and that his own power quadruples under a full moon at night. Yi Ling quietly questions their reliability, and Yi King notes the whole operation feels makeshift. Lei declares himself commander, but Sylve questions his authority. Lei suggests they let fate decide with the dice, with the highest roller becoming captain. Lei rolls a 16, Sylve a 15, Yuijian Bai a 9, and Yi King rolls a 4. Lei orders Yi King to the back of the formation and tells everyone to move out. Lei activates the key, and the team enters the abyss, the air immediately growing thick with fog. He warns everyone to stay close, just as monstrous ghouls burst from the ground. Lei calls for his priest, who casts Sacred Domain, a field of blue light that repels the undead. Seeing this, the wolf shapeshifter asks for his sword to be enchanted. With his blade glowing, he leaps into battle while the assassins of Night's Cry activate their shadow cloaks to strike from the darkness. Sylve smirks, content to let the others serve as target practice. Liu Xingren is amazed as Yi King repels the ghouls with his mere presence, assuming he has a powerful exorcism artifact. Yi King, however, knows it's because he's dealt with so many low-level undead that they are now intimidated by his scent alone. The ghouls begin to cackle, and Yi Ling cries out as she feels her mana being disrupted. A massive, grotesque ghoul emerges and speaks, calling Yuijian Bai a faded one before he slices it in half. Yi King realizes someone is controlling the ghouls from the mist. He notes that undead are drawn to mana, making the pure magic user Yi Ling a prime target. He shouts a warning for her not to use mana, but it's too late. Her power surges uncontrollably in a mana convergence. Burst of energy attracts the ghouls, and Liu Xingren steps in to protect her, casting an ice spell to cool her down and drawing the enemy's attention. She creates a field of ice, temporarily trapping the advancing horde. Liu Xingren cries out that there's no end to them, and Yi Ling shouts for her to dodge. A massive fist of fire slams down where Liu Xingren just stood. Yi Ling unleashes her Hellfire Incinerate spell, summoning a roaring fire elemental to fight the ghouls. Yi King casts Gravity Vortex to contain the raging elemental, which struggles to escape his grasp. The vortex crushes the creature, but it immediately reforms from the flames. Suddenly, Yuijian Bai's sword strikes Yi King from behind. He offers a mock apology, blaming the thick mist for his mistake. Yuijian Bai wipes his sword clean, disgusted by Yi King's filthy blood, and lectures him on the elegance of his fighting style, which involves slaying foes from afar to remain spotless. He declares that his sword is a mere tool, unworthy of touching its master's skin, a philosophy Yi King finds naive. Yuijian Bai explains that it is precisely because he loves his swords that he must maintain the distinction between master and servant. The ghouls begin regenerating faster due to the mist, and Lei decides they must press on to the grand necropolis. They notice that Sylves is missing. His guildmates are seen carrying their injured leader, begging for help, but Lei dismisses him as third-rate trash. When challenged for defying the captain, Yi King steps in, stating his duty is to every member. After a sarcastic exchange with Lei, Yi King declares that he himself will go save Sylves, not out of sympathy but out of a captain's responsibility. Not wanting to be outdone, Yuijian Bai announces he will go too. Lei gives them 5 minutes, warning that the fated ones ahead will only grow in number. Yi King states that he will go with the white-haired ally, instructing Yahello and another man to stay behind and guard their position properly while being careful. He then activates his dragon insight eye, his right eye glowing a brilliant yellow, which allows him to see through the thick red mist of the graveyard. He leads the way through a horde of shadowy, undead fated ones, instructing his companions to avoid the red ones as now is not the time for a fight. One of the men following is amazed that Yi King's vision can pierce the mist, noting that such an insight isn't something ordinary people can master. Another group, seeing their progress, decides to follow, forming a foursquare formation to protect themselves, though one of their members complains that making such a big scene will stir up trouble no matter where they go. They soon arrive in a clearing where the mist has completely dispersed, a strange phenomenon considering it should be thickest at the center of the great graveyard. They spot another group of adventurers and call out to them. They have found Sylvis's party, cornered by a massive demonic knight wreathed in red energy, a boss monster. Yi King calls them idiots, warning them that 2 more steps would have been a free one-way ticket to the afterlife. Sylvis, recognizing him, angrily tells Yi King to shut his stinking mouth and not to drag him down if he wants to die. Yi King questions why they are just sitting there waiting to die when they could go around, but Sylvis furiously explains that they are trapped by a Lord's barrier, a cursed wall that prevents any escape. Yi King understands. It's a boss room that will only dispel once the area's lord is killed. Sylvis scoffs, asking if Yi King thinks he doesn't want to gut the bastard, explaining that the creature one-shotted his men in an instant, so he is waiting for its alert level to fade. Yi King calls him utter trash for waiting for a boss to calm down, declaring that a true strong one never knows what cowardice means. As Sylvis curses at him, Yi King charges forward. Angered by the insult, Sylvis unleashes his own attack, sword returned to heaven, as his ally yells for him to defend with the impenetrable wall of 10,000 blades. The Nether Knight's brutal strike easily shatters the defensive barrier of swords, piercing armor and breaking Sylvis's blade. The knight's sword then ignites with a burning nether fire, and it declares itself the enemy of the living, proclaiming they will all be buried there. Enraged, Sylvis refuses to retreat, declaring he will cut the knight into dust, and that a sword master retreating would be laughable. As the knight brings its flaming sword down, Yi King yells for him to dodge already. Yi King intervenes, blocking the attack himself and chiding Sylvis for provoking the monster. Annoyed that Yi King stole his spotlight again, Sylvis listens as Yi King explains the knight's demonic flame slash has double destructive power against armor, and that he should get lost if he values his sword. Yi King then activates the breath of the flame dragon, Ring of Cinders. His hand erupting in a golden aura as a system notification confirms the netherfire has been seized. Now wielding the swirling red netherfire himself, Yi King declares that the knight's strength now belongs to him. The commotion causes more fated ones to rise from the ground. Yi King unleashes the stolen fire upon them, explaining that as long as the netherfire keeps burning, their regeneration ability cannot activate. He moves through them with ease, the fiery tendrils incinerating the undead. Sylvis's group watches in shock, one man exclaiming that he's never seen someone steal a boss's ability before. Yi King mockingly replies that he had already stripped away most of its strength before they even showed up. He continues his assault on the Nether Knight, knowing its physical resistance is weak, especially during the brief moment it switches its elemental shell, which is the only time to deal damage. Dodging a flurry of attacks, he strikes the knight's core, shattering its armor and defeating it in a final explosive blow. With the job done, the survivors express their disbelief that it's over so quickly. One of Sylvis's men rushes forward to claim at least half the loot, insisting he found the monster first. An ally of Sylvis scoffs at the claim, pointing out the man hid safely out of range the entire fight. Silvus argues that his bravery in taking the boss's ultimate attack head-on is what allowed them to survive, and the price of his 3 shattered longswords should be covered by the swords on the ground, offering the rest as charity. Yi King coolly states that in his eyes, the pile of stuff is all garbage, and they can take it all if they want. Offended, Silvus's man asks if Yi King is calling them garbage collectors. Yi King replies that he doesn't care what they call it. If they don't want it, it's all his. He activates a recycle skill on the knight's remains and a swirling purple flame. The nether flame emerges. A system message details its powerful forging properties, including adding a nether attribute that can trigger a soul-burning effect. Yi King knows he's lucky. The nether flame is a rare drop with a 1 in a million chance, a physical manifestation of the affix he stole from the knight, which is powerful enough to completely strip away the resurrection ability of the undead. A woman from Silvus's party accuses Yi King of secretly pocketing a rare item, claiming she saw a green fire shoot from his hand. Silvus supports her, arguing that according to their agreement, his guild has more say than Yi King's Scavenger's house. Yi King laughs, finding it ironic to be branded a loot thief after he risked his life to save them. He admits he did get something incredible and offers to show them. He conjures the nether flame, and when one of the men tries to grab it, the fire burns him intensely, proving they can't handle its power. Yi King states that since they can't use it, it belongs to him. The burned man quickly agrees, saying he wouldn't take the cursed flame for free. Stating he's in a hurry to regroup with the main force, Yi King departs. As he leaves, Silvus's remaining members comment on how rotten Yi King is, hiding his true depth. Silvus mutters that the higher one climbs, the harder they fall. Back at the initial camp, the white-haired ally assures Yahello that as long as Yi King is there won't be a problem. Soon after, Yi King and the others arrive at the magnificent Bone Cathedral. The expedition leader, Captain Lei, congratulates Yi King on his hard work. Yi King's ally asks if this is the cathedral they were looking for, and Lei confirms it is the location of the finale ritual. Inside the vast, eerie cathedral, they find 11 skeletons arranged on the floor. Captain Lei is questioned about bringing them to an empty cathedral. Yi King realizes the truth, identifying Captain Lei as the Raven, the sole survivor of a 12-man elite squad. He correctly deduces that the hunt was fake and the real purpose was sacrifice. Captain Lei confirms it, explaining the Abyss hunt was his ritual to collect souls, and he still needs 9 fresh ones to fully activate the ceremony and ascend as the Lich King. A member of the Tears of the Night Guild points out that there are only 8 of them left, but another corrects her, reminding them that their guild lost 1 member, bringing the count to 9. She suggests they all pretend nothing happened, but Captain Lei finds their early loss pathetic. He then reveals a twist. Although there are 8 bodies, there are 9 souls present, the scales of fate having balanced perfectly. He addresses Yahello, and a monstrous red phantom appears behind him. Yahello's demeanor shifts, and she introduces herself as Lingyi, explaining that her body is a vessel shared with her younger sister. The white-haired ally remarks that this explains her completely different behavior in past battles. Lingyi states she also came for the finale festival, hoping to use its power to separate her soul from her sister's and return the body to her intact. Yi King remarks that 2 souls in a single vessel sounds like demonic work. Captain Lei scoffs at the idea of wasting the ritual on them, calling them nothing more than fuel to ignite it. He reveals his true nature as a divinely chosen priest blessed by both light and shadow, confident that their small hunting groups cannot stop him and his 2 men. Yi King grows angry at Lei treating his teammates as fuel. Lei dismisses them as conceited ants and toys for demons, claiming that once they burn out on the altar, not even ash will remain. He orders his followers, Lang Zai Feng and Sales, to handle the others while he personally offers up Yi King. Yi King declares there is no need to hold back, and the hunters charge. However, in a blur of motion that no one can see, Yi King instantly defeats Lei's followers and appears before a terrified Captain Lei. One of the defeated men, Sales, immediately surrenders, saying there's no point fighting now that the boss is dead. Captain Lei reveals that no more deaths are needed because if the demon itself is present, the finale festival can be used directly. Yi King confirms that he once defeated a demon. The white-haired ally is stunned as Yi King explains that this victory afflicted him with the world's most vicious curse, leaving him with only 1 minute of life left. Only the power of the finale festival can dispel it. Lingyi is distraught, realizing that if he saves himself, her own quest is over. Yi King apologizes, admitting that saving himself was his original plan, but fate had other ideas. He declares that if the tome can only rewrite one person's destiny, he wants that person to be Lingyi. She protests, calling it nonsense to waste the chance on someone as insignificant as her. Yi King tells her she has never lived for herself, always struggling for her sister, and that she has done enough. He tells them all to live well, to enter the abyss and leave it alive. The white-haired ally tries to stop him, but Yi King apologizes for breaking his word. He entrusts the care of his own sister, along with his money, to the ally, saying he is the one he trusts the most. In his final moments, Yi King invokes the name of the demon and uses the ritual to lift Yiling's curse. A great surge of purple energy envelops Lingyi. He tells her to go and see the world she should have had, a world of freedom. In an epilogue, the white-haired ally speaks with Sylvis, saying Yi King was selfish for escaping first, a lie told to protect their hunting group from the World Guild. He notes that thanks to Yi King, the Scavenger's den has reached D rank. The ally then reveals the truth. Yi King did die, but his body vanished as if dragged into the abyss. He says Yi King fooled everyone but him. He asserts that Yi King is not trash and that the king will return one day, an event that will shock everyone. He holds a glowing blue crystal, believing in his friend's return with all his heart.